All right. Good evening and welcome to your new favorite Warhammer the Old World podcast, Motley Crude. In this episode, we're going to be giving you the hottest of takes on the Warriors of Chaos new Arcane Journal. And before we get going, I'm Kevin. I'm doing great. And what about you guys?
Hi, Kevin. I'm Ryan, and I'm doing great right now. Andrew?
I'm also good. Excited to get into this week's episode.
Yeah, this will be our first crack at giving the world the hot takes, and it's going to be the hot takes o'clock here in Motley Crude Town. As I mentioned, we're going to review this journal for you. Thanks to GW for giving us an advanced copy. No, you guys aren't going to say anything.
No.
Okay. All right. We did not receive an advanced copy. This is thanks to the joys and wonders of the internet that we're reviewing this for you guys tonight. So we're going to be talking about the two armies of infamy, the new units, the new items that are part of the Warriors of Chaos Arcane Journal. And the way we're going to be doing this is we're going to be talking about Wolves of the Sea and the army composition, the unit entries that sort of feed into it. Then we're going to be talking about the Heralds of Darkness, as well as its unit entries. And then finally, we'll talk about the new units that are added to the Warriors of Chaos Grand Army, as well as its magical items. So before we kick off with that review, let's go around the table and just talk about what's new in our hobby over the last week.
Fantastic. So I've been up to, besides attempting to make 8,000 versions of the Wolves of the Sea army, working on actually painting the army I'm going to take to Toronto in October. It's a variation on my typical Bretonian exiles situation. There's nothing super exciting. I just actually have to paint things, which is onerous.
Yeah.
And other than that, sorry, go on.
Did you make any changes after CCBB to your list, or?
I'm probably going to swap out the second unit of knights for a brick of yeomen.
Okay.
And that's basically turning what wasn't affecting the battle into just a brick of attempted points denial.
Fair enough. That sounds like a decent strategy. On my end, I've gone from no army to paint for Toronto to a few units to paint. I've decided to swap out some of the hobgoblins on wolves and bring in some ballistas, some bolt throwers, hobgoblin bolt throwers. So we'll see how that works out. Yeah, to inspire fear in all the Bretonian players I come across. What about you, Andrew?
I'm still out of the old world right now, working on Necromunda stuff. I've put together a bunch more terrain pieces because apparently I hate myself and just want to make nonstop terrain all the time. But I do have to switch back to painting my old world army because I too am going to Toronto, and my army's about half painted for that. So I'll need to finish my Dark Elves for that. So I'll probably start that probably next week. Hopefully
are you fully?
I can finish.
Sorry, are you fully settled on your list for that one, or?
Yeah, I don't think I've played enough variants of the Dark Elf list on the lead up to CCB with you guys, and I'm pretty happy with how I've concocted the list. So there may be one or two units I would change in the future, but that's probably an after SBOT thing for me to do. Maybe find a way to work in some shades or something because they're a really strong piece.
Yeah.
And have a lead on a really cool looking STL for those, so I can get those printed off pretty easily. But right now I just want to focus on what I'm more comfortable playing with because I have experience running that list a bunch of times. And really it's just I need to not push as hard as I usually do with that list, and I think it's going to do actually half decent.
Awesome. I'm excited to see you playing games at the tournament instead of just running it this time. That'll be great.
Yeah, it'll be a nice change for once.
Yeah. On my end, it's been a pretty quiet week, hobby-wise. We had like a long weekend up here in Canada, so I was out of town for 5 days out of the last 7. So very little hobby happened. I had a game schedule last night that fell through, unfortunately, because sometimes your life gets in the way. But I'll be making that up over the next week for sure. I've got a game of our narrative campaign planned for next Monday, and then hopefully a few more I could slap in there and do some painting and stuff. So a lot of plans. Yeah, so okay, so pivoting to our focus for this evening in terms of the Arcane Journal. So, as I mentioned in my intro there, we're going to be covering the entirety of the journal, and we'll be starting with the Wolves of the Sea Army of Infamy, then doing the Heralds of Darkness, and then finally the generic items slash unit entries that are left. So, without further ado, let's roll into it. Let's start with Warriors of the Sea, and then just our opening thoughts on the Army of Infamy. Is it thematic? Is it fun? Does it bring anything we're looking for to the table? And whatever else you're thinking. Over to you, Ryan.
So I love this army. It warms my heart. It basically lets me bring to the table, your classic Conan the Barbarian horde of people, the Dothraki, what have you, any of that kind of archetype of, shirtless, slavering murderer hobos. So that's really cool. It also lets you play around with some very interesting, like leaning heavily into ambush, even more so than a Beastmen army can at this point. It just brings all kinds of theme and fun in a way that I think will also be viable on the table and not just bad. How about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love how thematic this list is. It's really speaking to me. I've started purchasing some models, so I may also be building a Wolves of the Sea army in the near future. There's some really thematic rules in there, which we'll cover shortly, that I love. There's a ton of new unit entries that feed into the army that are again, thematic is like the word that'll keep coming up. It really sells and tells a story of the exactly as you mentioned. Like, give me Conan the Army, and I'm there with a dragon, and I'm there with you. So, loving that list. It's got a lot of play, and I'm excited to see it on the tables. And what about you, Andrew?
I mean, it's I haven't played any any older editions other than 8th. But this seems to be a list that like a lot of people have been asking for a long time. Like they want like an all Marauder list out of the Chaos Warriors book. Even in the past, like people tried to make like an all Marauders list work in 8th ed. So I think it's exciting to finally see like it come to fruition. And it has a lot of thematic units, as you guys said, that like feed into this, and like the rules are really neat as well. So I think it's really exciting to see, and like it is half decent. Now it is, I feel, very um, infantry heavy, so I don't know like how strong it's gonna be, because infantry does still seem to struggle a bit. But maybe we'll get into that more as we go over the units. But yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about sort of the competitive angle to this. You're not entirely wrong, but I think we'll be able to unpack that for sure. So, rolling into the overall army composition.
Yes. So you can bring up to 50% of your army as characters. You can have exactly one Chaos Lord, Demon Prince, or Sorcerer Lord, being mutually exclusive. You can have 0 to 1 per 1,000 points of Exalted Champions or Exalted Sorcerers. And you can have as many aspiring champions and Marauder Tribe Chieftains as you want. You need at least 25% core, which can be comprised of Chaos Marauders, Marauder Horsemen, Marauder Tribe Berserkers, which are a unique option, and Chaos Warhounds. You can bring up to 50% of your army as special, and that can include Chaos Warriors, Chaos Chariots, Skin Wolves, another bespoke unit, Marauder Tribe Huskarls, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and Chaos Spawn. You can include 33% of your army as rare units, to include Chaos Ogres, Chaos Trolls, and Dragon Ogres, as well as 0 to 1 Gigantic Chaos Spawn per 1,000 points, 0 to 1 Dragon Ogre Shaggoth per unit of Dragon Ogres, and 0 to 1 Giant per 1,000 points. Additionally, as mercenaries, you can take up to 25% of your army as either Gore herds or Ungore herds from the Beastmen army. So, all in, this gives you, yes, a very mortal infantry heavy army. However, like, you could cavalry it up and just have your 25% be Marauder Horsemen and Chaos Warhounds if you really wanted to. But I think that there's definitely going to be a lot of play in those Berserkers and things like the giant Chaos Spawn and whatnot. What are your thoughts?
Over to you, Andrew, on this one.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's cool that you're able to bring gores in. Like I kind of like that mixed chaos feel, because a lot of the fluff around like the warriors of chaos is it's not like just like the knights or whatever. It is kind of like as they move across whatever country or their war path, they just kind of accumulate all this random like people and like beasts that join them. So it's cool you can bring in the gores, especially with, I guess, as we'll talk later too, gores have an ability to, or an option to take a lot of ambush. So I think you're gonna see a lot of lists that are gonna lean super heavy into like the ambush side of things. And I think a lot of the marauder stuff too can also take ambush as well. So it's gonna be one of those lists, I think, that you're gonna see things coming in from all sides. But like basically you have like all the fun toys. You can still take dragon ogres, which are, I guess one of those like OP choices. The new chaos spawn seems a little ridiculous on paper. We'll see how it is on the table, but it looks pretty crazy. So like there is some powerful stuff in here, but again, it feels like it's leaning it really heavily into infantry, and it's just like I don't know if it's gonna be able to handle some like the higher toughness things or like the high armor stuff. Maybe I'm wrong though. Hot takes, right?
Hot takes, exactly. On my end, like three things that that the army composition sort of brings to me right now is, firstly, like definitely having one of Chaos Lord, Demon Prince, or Sorcerer Lord is going to result in a hit on the competitive side. Like having a Chaos Lord on Dragon and a level 4 with a bunch of Marauder Horsemen, Mark of Tzeentch type situation is really sort of one of the hallmarks of the competitive Chaos lists that you see these days. So definitely not being able to bring that. I guess it feeds into the thematic and narrative side, but it definitely will hit the list competitively. I think more room for good is more room for rare choices is good, because there's a lot of solid choices in there, which we'll discuss. And then the Gores and Ungores, I was originally really pumped about when they talked about them on the Warhammer community, but seeing them in Mercenaries is a bit disappointing. The rules for Mercenaries aren't great overall. And then, the list has a lot of light infantry type dudes already. So I'm not sure that your Ungors and Gores in Mercenary slots are really going to outcompete the other light infantry choices that you have. So that one's a bit of a miss for me.
Well,
But yeah, sorry.
like the gores thing, it's gonna force you to try to take big blocks to take advantage of warband, because they're not gonna be able to be really using your leaders or your general's leadership, right?
Yeah, you're right. I think it would
So it's kind
definitely
of
lead into that.
it's like forcing you in that direction if you want to go gore heavy, or they're just gonna kind of dissipate the second they lose a single combat, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're right on that one. In terms of just moving on to the special rules, because I think this will feed into the discussion that you're sort of bringing to the table there with the Gors and the Ungors. The Wolves of the Sea has 3 different rules to it. The first one is called Favor of the Gods. And this one is if a character in your Wolves of the Sea army kills an opponent in a challenge, or if any unit in your army destroys an enemy unit that has a standard in it, you immediately roll on the Gaze of the Gods table. So this is the only time so far that units can roll on Gaze of the Gods. So some good stuff there, which I'll get into in a minute. The second main rule is Seaborn Raiders. What this lets you do is take a unit of Chaos Marauders or Marauder Horsemen and then give them the ambusher special rule for 1 point per model. You can also do that with aspiring champions as long as they're infantry or cavalry for 10 points per model. And then finally, you have the best rule ever, Warriors Duel. So at the start of the game, instead of rolling off to determine who goes first, you can declare that you're going to do a Warriors Duel. And then if your opponent accepts, both of you will nominate a challenger who's infantry or cavalry unit type with a single wound. And they're going to fight basically a duel to the death, taking as many combat rounds as are required. And then the winner of that duel is going to go first, which is just amazing from a thematic perspective. And then if the enemy declines to the challenge, they're gonna count as having failed, and then they're going to count as having lost the challenge, and then the Wolves of the Sea player is going to count as having won a roll off and will go first. So basically, if your opponent doesn't go for the duel, you're going first. In terms of sort of what I think about those 3 rules, first thing is Favor of the Gods is fun. It's thematic. It gives you the opportunity to juice up some units when they kill something with a banner, which is wild. I know it won't come up a ton. Most competitive armies have maybe like 2 to 3, maybe sometimes 4 banners. But just having the chance to roll like a Wicked 6 or whatever on Favor of the Gods for a unit is amazing. Of course, you could also roll a 1 and then have your amazing unit become stupid, which would be super in theme for Chaos. I think, though, it's where it's going to come up much more frequently, this rule, is with challenges. So your beat stick characters in your Warriors of Chaos armies and your Wolves of the Sea armies end up getting challenged a lot. So, the typical response to having a juiced up dragon charger unit is to challenge it out to save your unit for an extra round of combat. So that will immediately, because the dragon or the whatever souped up combat character you have is going to win its challenge, and it's going to generate some more Favor of the Gods rules immediately. So make sure if you're taking this army that you invest in an item also called Favor of the Gods, which is the 5-point reroll if you end up getting rolling stupidity on that rule. For the second one, Seaborn Raiders, it's okay. I'm not as hot on ambushing as maybe Andrew is. I don't think it's like the best mechanic in the old world, but there are ways in this army list at least to skew the math a little bit with a character which we're going to discuss later. I think Seaborn Raiders does have some play, though, to have like a cheap unit or 2 in ambush to sort of raise a ruckus in your opponent's back line. I think Marauder Horsemen are like a really prime candidate for that, actually, and in a way that I can sort of describe later. And then finally, Warriors Duel, again, amazing, a really, really fun rule. One thing, though, that I'd sort of point out is without Chaos Warriors, Knights, Chosen, etc. in your list, you've probably lost most of your best duelers. So your various flavors of Marauders probably aren't auto-winning this Warriors Duel. So there is some game in this there is some risk in this mini game, and you're not going to be pulling it off every time. So what do you guys think about these rules?
I love Warriors Duel is the most Warhammer rule that I've seen in probably 20 years. It's just amazing. And you are right, like it's a big danger when you got a bunch of Marauders, but you can still get a unit of Chaos Warriors in there just so your champion can stab a guy with his ensorcelled hand weapon. It's not the worst. I'm a big fan of ambushers, but that's also because I'm ridiculous and just go for big swings that lose me more often than they succeed. Um, so I have actually been fooling around with an army where about 2/3 of it might show up behind the other player. Um,
Okay,
which unless they are all skirmishers, is actually a giant headache for my opponent.
it is. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's pretty
given
huge.
given what my one unit of brigands did, just like running through people's backfields because they couldn't turn around to kill them fast enough. Um, and yeah, in favor of the gods, just cool. Like getting a unit of berserkers to just like randomly get a fourth attack or something can be very interesting. So I like where they went with this, and I like how much like I like a lot of things about this game, but I like how all of it leads you towards playing the army thematically. Like it encourages you to play the army like a big ravening horde of marauders, and not like pivot in a completely different direction, ignore half of their rules.
Yeah, those are all good points. What about you, Andrew?
I mean, I think you guys really covered most of it. Um, like Seaborn Raiders, it's something like I think you're gonna have to get the most out of lean super heavy, like Ryan's planning to do. And there is some like pretty scary shit that you can bring in. So if you take like a big block of even just regular marauders with flails, that showing up on your back line um, is huge, especially like how hard it is unless you're playing like wood elves or like a really skirmishy army to like turn your forces around to face something like that. Um, it's going to be really hard to deal with, and it's probably going to take a lot of things off the board. Um, Warriors Duel is just like amazing. Like I feel like that should just be that rule alone should just replace the roll off for like the whole game. Like that's how it should be to begin with. It's just really cool. It's really thematic. Um, and I think it's gonna push a lot of like Warriors players to use that 25 points or whatever, how many point champion allotments to like kind of trick out some like a dueling character for this, which is really cool because I know there's some lists that do take advantage of like the points that champions can take, but I don't see very many because we're playing lower points values usually like 1500 or 2k. So like points are really tight, and sometimes you can't afford to trick out a champion with a fancy sword or like a cool piece of armor. So I think you're gonna see a lot more people like that, and maybe even like on the hobby side, if you're making a Wolves of the Sea army, you're gonna convert and like make like your dueling champion, uh, like a special model in your army, right?
100%. I'm totally planning a dueling champion to just every game put out there for sure. Um, yeah. So let's. You want to roll into berserkers there, Ryan?
Absolutely. So a fancy unit of this army is the Marauder Berserkers. They've got movement 5, which is cool. And other than that, they have kind of your standard Marauder stat block, weapon skill 4, strength 3. They are toughness 4, which is also cool. You know, one initiative 3, 1 attack. The champion can have 2 attacks, and they're 8 points a model. Very bare bones. They come with a hand weapon and light armor. For 1 point per model, you can give them either an additional hand weapon or a flail. So you're either getting an extra attack or you're fighting at strength 5, AP -2. They can take throwing axes for 1 point per model, which everyone online seems to like poo-poo as an idea. However, if you're going to ambush them, I really think that there might be some play in having strength 4 ranged attack. And aside from that, the unit can take a champion, a standard bearer, a musician, and they can have the ambusher's special rule for 1 point per model. They come stock with Frenzy, Mark of Chaos Undivided, Move Through Cover, Open Order, Skirmishers, and Warband. And they are Relentless Warriors, so they have a 6+ ward save against any wounds suffered from a non-magical enemy attack. So all in, like with 2 hand weapons, you've got a guy who costs 9 points, and he has 3 attacks, and you just throw them at people. I love the idea of just maybe like somewhere between 5 and 10 of them coming out of ambush, throwing some hand axes at things, and then the following turn either charging or being charged and just like slapping a goblin bolt thrower to death with with their axes. I have some lovely corn, whatever the Age of Sigmar corn warrior guys that I've been working on converting into berserkers.
Blood Reavers, probably.
That sounds right. It's definitely got blood in the name because corn.
Yeah.
So
That's corn. Yep.
But yeah, they're a very cool unit that fundamentally does the same thing as Marauders with Mark of Corn, but with better toughness, better movement, and
Better
better
rules.
options. It's better everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
They're kind of like your chosen equivalent for Marauders, right? So, like, in the regular Warriors list, you have Chaos Warriors and Core, and those are like your base guys. And then in Special, you have your chosen Warriors. This feels like kind of like the same dichotomy there, where these are like your special hero level unit of Marauders. So they're really cool, but they have a lot of like the same options as a regular Marauder unit, just better. Unfortunately, you can't take marks with them, which is right. Did I read
You
that wrong?
can't, but they come with Frenzy and the
Yeah.
Mark of Chaos Undivided, so they just have Mark of Corn, but better.
Yeah. Mark of Corn and
Yeah.
Undivided, basically. Yeah.
So it kind of limits you a little bit on like if you want to put a tooled up character in there because they wouldn't be able to join, right? But otherwise, like yeah, they're really good. I don't think a lot of people will not take these. That's a weird way to say that, but like I don't know. I don't see a lot of downsides other than the frenzy.
Yeah. So I guess you're right about the frenzy bit, but at least because the rest of your army is going to be moving faster than they are, you're unlikely, and their like charge range, the range at which they can declare a charge isn't that far. I don't think it's as much of like an issue as it is with, say, impetuous cavalry, for instance. But yeah, it is something that we're going to need to learn how to navigate playing with. On my end, I think berserkers are fantastic. I really like this unit. You're getting so much out of an 8 to 10 point model that's in your core slot. Like Ryan described, movement 5 skirmishers that reroll charges because of warband is quite mobile for infantry. They can move and in 360 directions also, which is fantastic. They're packing a ton of attacks at 3 apiece. If you're going double hand weapons or even 2 attacks is quite rare on especially 8 to 10 point infantry. And then their defensive profile isn't even that terrible between like leadership 8, weapon skill 4, toughness 4, 6+6+, because they get a 6+ word save, and chaos undivided to reroll some of those panic tests and terror and stuff. Like they're not even terrible at just being defensive for berserkers. I like the weapon options. I think the flail is probably the better choice because of there's quite a big jump between string 3 and string 5 and AP and no AP in terms of attacks. That being said, like I wouldn't laugh at somebody who took them with double hand weapons, because that volume of attacks is like, depending on the target you're going for, is just gonna wreck stuff. So it's amazing. I think I mapped it out a little bit there, and at 98 points, you've got a champ and a hand weapon or flail upgrade of your choice, and you're looking at either 31 or 21 attacks on a 10-man unit at weapon skill 4, strength 5, AP 2 if you're taking the flails. Like, that beats out the offensive output of any core choice in my regular army for 98 points. That's fantastic. And I think, like, in terms of employing them, a few of these run as MSU units, I kind of am defaulting towards 10 rather than 5, but like, I mean, we'll test it on the table. MSU with in core is going to be great. I'd go flails, but again, extra hand weapons is definitely not a bad choice. I think ambushers is an okay option, but I think there are better options in this list for ambushers. For instance, cheap Marauder Horsemen with flails will do it better just because they can move a lot faster. You give them the Mark of Corn, and then you're still getting 2 attacks. So there's that. And I guess my hot take with the Marauder Berserkers is, like, what room is left in the list for regular Marauders? You know, the first few lists that I was writing, I was putting a block of Marauders in there because I felt like I needed to put a block of regular Marauders, but I don't even know what they're bringing to the fight at this point when you can bring the Berserkers. So that's my hot take for these guys.
My
Well, I
hot
guess it'd
take is
just
that
be a
Slayers wish they were Berserkers.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Andrew.
well, just like a more controllable unit, I guess. Something that you can kit out more defensively and not have to worry about getting pulled out of your lines due to frenzy. But again, like, depending on how your list makeup is, maybe you don't need that anvil unit because this is definitely a hammer unit, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I feel like Warriors of Chaos is very much like a pressure aggro army that you're just moving forwards, you know, and I don't even know what you really want anvils for in this kind of list, or the Heralds of whatever destruction rune or whatever they're called list either. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to the drawing table. I'll try it out, but I'm not really seeing it for the Marauders right now, the regular Marauders. Okay, I think we've talked these guys up a storm. Back to you, Ryan, for Huskarls.
Yes, Marauder Tribe Huskarls. They are light cavalry. They're
Somehow.
movement 8. Yeah, they're light cavalry, but they're thematically they're supposed to be like the beefier cousins of Marauder Horsemen. So like not quite a knight, but not quite a like frothing madman on a horse. They're movement 8. Their weapon skill 4, strength 3, toughness 4, initiative 3. 1 attack, leadership 7, 8. They're 18 points a model. They come in units of 5 or more. They come stock with hand weapons and light armor. They can take cavalry spears for free or flails for 1 point per model. They can take throwing axes or javelins if you really want to. They can replace their light armor with heavy armor. They can take shields. So you can get yourself up to a 4-up save because their horses don't have barding. So that's a thing. They can take marks. They come with mark Chaos Undivided, but they can take any of the regular marks of Chaos. They can take Unit Champion, a Standard Bearer, or a Musician. The Standard Bearer can have a magic standard of worth up to 50 points. 0 to 1 per 1,000 points. Units per 1,000 point may take the Drilled special rule for 2 points a model. And the champion can take a total of 25 points worth of magic items. They have
Nice.
Close Order, they have Counter Charge, they have Furious Charge, the Mark of Chaos Undivided, Swift Stride, and Warband. So, not gonna lie, the coolest combination of rules I have yet to see in the game is Warband, Counter Charge, Furious Charge,
Swift Stride.
drilled on light cavalry. So you can triple march, quick turn, get charged, shake out into a line, countercharge someone that you just like sprinted across the table at, and then get 2 attacks per model because you countercharged 3 inches. Like, just ridiculous. Now, with that said, you have the durability of like damp cardboard. So whatever you hit, you want to hit hard. So I'd probably kit them out with the flails in my world, but then you're losing the benefit of your shield. Like it gets interesting when you're spending almost the cost of a Knight of the Realm for a guy that a Knight of the Realm would like slap to death. But that they're really cool. I like them. I've been having a ton of fun converting them.
Yeah. What are you converting them out of?
So I had some Chaos Knights lying around, and I have a whole bunch of. So, for full disclosure, my entire Chaos army is made out of the Age of Sigmar, Slaves to Darkness, and Dark Oath ranges. So
Ooh.
I've kind of kit bashed parts of Knights and parts of Marauder Horsemen together into. They all kind of wound up looking like Tormund from Game of Thrones. Like they have like tiny head in big armor.
Which is the
but
aesthetic you want to go for.
exactly. So
Okay. All right. On my end, man, like Huskarl's big thumbs up from me. I think these are a really, really solid unit, and they have definite play at the competitive level. I wish they were core, but I'm probably asking for too much there. The damage output on these guys is ridiculous. And like you mentioned, Ryan, like for me, the combo of Swift Stride, Countercharge, and Furious Charge is just brutal. So you're almost always going to get at least 2 attacks on these guys. And then like you throw a Mark of Corn on them. With a Furious Charge, Mark of Corn, a 5-man unit at 118 points is dealing out 16 attacks at strength 5 AP2. Like, yikes. That is a lot of pain coming your way with these guys. And I liked your comparison there to Knights of the Realm because I looked at some of the numbers and because Knights of the Realm are like my go-to basic cav unit in the old world. And Huskarls just have so much more output at a cheaper price. Like your Huskarls are basically doing 2 to 3 times the damage if you're taking the corn mark or not there for this at the same profile of strength 5 AP2 for a cheaper price. With a limited drop in durability, it's actually not as bad as you would think. Like, yeah, sure, the armor's -1 or -2, but they are +1 toughness. So that sort of evens it out a little bit. I get it; they don't have a ward save, but I mean the amount of output is, I think, definitely worth it. At first, I was leaning towards like a big unit of 10 with drilled on these guys, but the more I think about it, like keep them like the right place to keep them cheap. And maximize damage output. Like again, go MSU, 5 model units at 118 points, dishing out like 16 of those brutal attacks. Like I think those guys have a ton of play. I'm a huge fan. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, like they're really good as that sort of hammer unit. I kind of wonder too if they have more play as like a Swiss Army knife as well, because they do have access to the throwing knives and javelins. So maybe you do use them as a more expensive chaff unit and don't go for like the heavy armor upgrade, and just kind of use them as like better Marauder cav, which is what they are. Seeing that the champion can take that 25 points in magic items, like, is this guy also gonna be your challenger? Because he'll have the horse as well. Drop a flail on him and mark a corn. That's like 3 strength 5 attacks, plus the horse kick. So like it's a cool unit, and it looks like there's a lot of different things you can do with it. You can make them more defensive with Marker Nurgle. I guess Marcus Zinch isn't too great on them. Slash gives them not strike first.
gives them +1 initiative in the first round of comp. Makes them elves.
Makes them elves. That's not bad either, to be honest.
They're
like
already
initiative
better
4.
Wild Riders.
Yeah. So like they're cool. And you can either like drop all the points on them and make them wicked expensive, or you can just keep them stock. Like they're not shit. Just no marks. Don't go crazy on the upgrades. Like maybe just flails. and keep them cheap, and they're just better Marauder Cav. So they're a cool unit. Um, I think, yeah, the trap is though to just give them everything, and
Yeah.
they're not like, as Ryan said, they're slightly worse knights. So I think like people might be suckered into like just giving them every upgrade possible, and I think you have to sort of plan what you want to do with this unit. Either make them fighty or make them like sort of more of a harasser unit.
Yeah, I think you just kit them out to be a little missile, and you toss them at something and just plaster it basically for 100 points. And the only thing I will say though is in terms of chaff, I still think Marauder Horsemen are better because they have the skirmish rule, so you could sort of run circles
Right.
around your opponent. These guys don't, so it's gonna be a little bit more annoying to maneuver them in that role. But like you're right, you could kit them out to be tougher. I just think the potential damage output just like is drawing me in too hard.
Yeah, fair enough. And it's a unit that this list needs, like a fast moving heavy hitter, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think every list should have that, to be frank, but especially this
Yeah,
one.
fair enough.
Okay, so let's move on to Skin Wolves. So, again, Skin Wolves, I like them a lot. Not as much as the other two, but I still like them a lot. What we're looking at here is a movement 7 unit with weapon skill 5, no ballistic skill, but who cares because they don't have throwing weapons. Strength 4, toughness 4, 3 wounds apiece, initiative 4, 3 attacks, leadership 7. They've got Blood Rage and Primal Fury, which are the Beastmen rules where you take a leadership test at the start of the combat phase to either reroll ones, and you potentially get Frenzy if you hit doubles. They've got Open Order, but you don't care because they've got Skirmisher, which is amazing on Monstrous Infantry. Like I cannot undersell how great this is. Swift Stride. Regen 5 plus, and then Warp Formed. Warp Formed is the rule that they previewed on Warhammer Community, where you can improve their damage output, their defensiveness, or their the number of attacks, I think. So these guys are again fantastic. I'm there for Skin Wolves. I think this is the monstrous infantry ogre kingdoms players wish they had. Incredibly mobile at movement 7 swift stride. That's basically what my bull centaurs get in a chaos dwarfs armies, except my bull centaurs don't have skirmishers. So again, very, very mobile. 3 wounds each with an inbuilt 5+ regen at T4 is great. You're getting 3 attacks each. Again, like really, really solid attacks, although they are only strength 4, sort of in their generic form there. But again, you can improve those attacks with Primal Fury, Blood Greed, and then some of the bonuses that you can pile on. I think most of the time, you're probably going to go for that bonus that gives them toughness 5, 5+ armor, and 5+ regen save. I think it's just really good. The other one you're going to go to is probably the AP buff. As well, which is it gives them AP1 on their weapons and then armor being 2. You're getting a lot here for 45 points a model. The only thing I will say sort of against Skin Wolves is I'm starting to see a trend here in the army list of a lot of middle strength, like middle high strength, 4 or 5 strength attacks. So you're probably going to have some internal competition on these guys for points and roll. That being said, I think Skin Wolves are just perfect to sit on your flanks and be a nightmare for the enemy to deal with. They'll shred chaff, they'll shred light to middle sort of heaviness cavalry, and any infantry they can basically get their paws on. And then once you bump them up, if they do get charged by something nastier, to weapon skill 5, toughness 5, 3 wounds, 5+5+, like these guys are going to be rough to get through. So I'm there for Skin Wolves. I think they're great. What about you guys?
Yeah, like I agree. I I think these guys would be, it's a toss up between Skin Wolves or the Huskarls we just spoke about. They kind of fill, at least in my head, the same role. Fast, medium strength attacks. I really like how these guys you can kind of customize what they do per turn based on whatever situation they're in. But yeah, like monstrous infantry with movement 7 and skirmishing and swift stride, like that's huge. Like they're just gonna go where they want, and you're gonna be able to pick your combats really well with this unit. The models are super cool too, which I really like. You know, werewolves. It just fits super well with the whole Viking berserker theme of the whole list. So like it's really cool that way. Again, there's not a lot of downsides. Maybe they're a bit squishy. Because the best they can do is the 5-up, 5-up. So you know, toughness 4 with a 5-up, 5-up, like they're still gonna get hurt, and it's not that reliable defense. So like
it'll also improve your toughness to 5, so it's toughness 5, 5 plus, 5 plus.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Well, that's still like talk to any ogre player, like they still die, right? So like I think your best defense with these guys is to like make sure you're going in first and killing like the front rank of a unit, because they're not. Yes, they're a little bit more defensible than what I thought originally, but still like it's not super good. But yeah, like I think they're a great unit, and I think they're better than the last unit we talked about, which I think they filled the same role essentially.
Yeah, the only thing, sorry there, Ryan, is in terms of role, how I would see them being a little bit different is because they have skirmisher, they can be a little bit better at sort of area denial on your flanks of your army, just preventing anybody from flanking you, because they could do that 360 charge that the Huskarls can't do. But definitely in terms of output, they do fill the same role, like for damage wise. Yeah. Sorry, Ryan.
Oh, you guys have really covered all of it. Like, fantastic models. I immediately bought 6 of them when they went on sale last weekend. The rules are great. They literally have the same mobility profile as Empire Knights.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna touch stuff, and it's gonna be violent. And I really like their kind of thematic warping rule. So that, you know, maybe if you do get charged, bumping yourself up to toughness 5 so that those Bretonnian knights are only wounding you on 4s might be worthwhile, since they're going before you anyway.
Yeah.
But you are absolutely right. Like, +1 attack or AP -1 armor bane 2 is going to be 99% of your choices here.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm never going to spit on additional flexibility in how I employ them with rules that I can change. Like it's just straight up good, whatever happens.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Like you have the option to. Sorry, you can also like you have the option to go like 2 models. You know, that's super cheap, 45 points. So 90 points for a 2 model unit. That's gonna hit hard. Or you can invest more heavily and have like a bigger just block of fucking werewolves coming at you, and it's still just like it's even more scary as you add more models to it. Like it's I don't know, I like it.
Yeah, I was looking at unit sizes of 3s and 4s, but I think there's play in the 2 wolf unit also. Like they're solid. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, rolling into the Marauder Chieftain.
Yeah, so this guy, he's kind of like just like a pocket hero. You know, he's 65 points, 2 wounds, 3 attacks, strength toughness 4, weapon skill 5, movement 4. He comes with hand weapon and light armor. Special rules rise. He's got chaos armor 6+, so he's got a built-in 6-up ward, which is nice. Gaze of the Gods, like everybody. Mark of Chaos Undivided, same as everybody. Rallying Cry, which is really cool on such a cheap model, because usually that rule is on like generals and stuff. And he's Warband. So I really like that set of rules on such a cheap character, because it means you're going to be able to like plop them in your Marauder units, or even like your Berserker units if you don't mark them. That being said, he does have access to the full range of marks. You can put him on a warhorse, so it can go with your Marauder Cav or your Huskarls. You can take a shield, throwing axes and javelins. and then flails, great weapons, and cavalry spears if he's mounted. Um, and he also has a magic item allowance of 50 points. So yeah, I really like this guy, and he's so cheap and like customizable that I feel like you can kind of spam him a bit. And if you have a lot of Marauder units, you can kind of like customize this dude to go in and be like your challenge guy, or just carry like a scary sword to keep more heavily armored stuff away from him. He is strength 4, so even if you give him a great weapon, now he's going up to strength 6. And that's kind of one of those um, that checkpoints is like strength 6 or higher, or like toughness 6 or
Yep.
higher. So if you can get like on par with that, like that's really cool to have. Like I really like this dude, just how cheap he is. Because even if you run on bare bones and just like toss him in Marauder units, you still have like a pretty good like challenge guy to take out like enemy champions and stuff. 65 points with a built-in 6-up ward is like super slick.
Yeah. So on my end, I don't disagree with you a little bit. Not as hot on him as you are. I think the Marauder Chieftain for me is more of a thematic choice than anything else. I think you're looking at a 5-point cheaper, like aspiring champion that's a little bit worse. So that checks out because he has lower armor and ward save, and I think just worse equipment options, specifically in mounts. He has ambush stock though, which is nice if you're going for that kind of build. I don't think you're going to be seeing that a ton with this guy specifically, though, like at the competitive level, but I may be wrong. We'll see. These are like all hot takes. And I think like you're right, Andrew, in that he is your quintessential like utility character or pocket hero type guy. I like personally, I've been looking at him and just slapping him on a horse with a ruby ring or the rod of the summoning, whatever it's called there, which we'll cover later, and just have him be like an annoying skirmishing lone operator on your opponent's flanks. Like I do this in my own regular army with Hobgoblin Khans all the time, and it works out super well. So this is the kind of role that I see for this guy. Like I don't hate him. I don't like him as much as the last 3 units we discussed, but he's a fun thematic choice that you can build around for sure. What about you, Ryan?
So as you all said, he's cheap. He has cool options. The one thing he does have over an aspiring champion is that he is regular infantry and not heavy infantry,
Yeah.
which means he can join your skirmishing units of marauders and whatnot, where the aspiring champion is just kind of left standing adjacent to them, not being helpful.
Yeah.
Another cool thing is in this army, he can also be your battle standard bearer if you chose to bring one. So you can make some. He is what can make a block of marauders interesting because you can do things like have a whole bunch of marauders with the razor standard and hand weapons, or you can make a brick of marauders that is stubborn and has shield wall, which for anyone who has played into peasants knows that that's a giant pain in the ass. So there are some things you can do on that front to find like novel ways to use the marauder units that you normally wouldn't be able to, because you'd take some dude on a 30 mil base and he'd be like stuck off in the corner and terrible.
Yeah.
I do also just love the idea of him like either on a horse or popping out of ambush and just like casting fireball on stuff. And he has just enough magic item allowance to take the, as we'll discuss later, the demonic plate mail or whatever it's called. So he can run around with a great weapon and a 3-up armor save and like +1 toughness and initiative, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
so,
you are.
Yeah. So you can do some interesting stuff.
For sure. Like he's just a good Build-A-Bear type character.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I don't think you guys should be sleeping on cheap access to Rally Cry. Rallying Cry.
Rally Cry is
like,
great.
Like that basically right there makes him, half a BSB. Right? The reroll on like rallying tests is pretty huge. Especially on like a Marauder army that isn't like crazy high leadership. Like you are gonna be maybe running from some combats.
Yeah.
And if you have like these guys to spread around your list, they'll have a lot more board coverage.
Yeah, fully agreed. Wanna Andrew wanna keep us going here with Friedel the Chainmaker?
Yes, let me just find her. Oh, there we go. So Friedel, again, she's another hero level character. In theory, she's 235 points, weapon skill 6, strength 5, toughness 4, 3 wounds, 4 attacks, initiative 5, movement 4. She's got a bevy of special rules, so she has ambushers like most of the guys in this list. The Chainmaker, which we'll get into in a second. She has Chaos Armor 5+, which is nice, so 5 up built-in ward save. Commander and Captain, we'll get to that in a second as well. And Source of Weapons, which is weird because it's never going to come up because she has a magic axe or sword, I guess.
Flail.
Gaze of the Gods. Flail? Okay. Gaze of the Gods, she has Impact hits 1. I guess that's why she has big horns. She's Mark of Chaos Undivided. Peerless Raider, and Rallying Cry. Again, awesome rule to have. So Chainmaker, this is huge, I really like this. Any enemy standard captured by Friedel or a unit that she's in is worth 100 points as opposed to 50. Commander and Captain. Let me just reread this so I don't misquote. So any fleeing friendly units of Marauders, Marauder Horsemen, the Heralds, or the Berserkers, they gain +1 to their leadership while within her command range. It's interesting rule, but it doesn't make sense to me because if they're already in her command range, wouldn't they just use her leadership of 9? Unless it means like they'd also get a +1 on top of that. I guess I'll ask you guys' opinion on that after the fact. Peerless Raider. So this is where she gets to play with the ambush rules of the whole army, and this is kind of which makes ambushing in Wolves of the Sea like worth it. So she can add +1 to the result, or I guess a -1 if she chooses. And then finally, her axe, or special weapon axe, it's strength +2, AP 1, extra attacks D3, which is crazy on her. Magical attacks, obviously, and requires 2 hands. So that would bring her up to strength of 7, AP 1. Not bad, not great. But extra attacks D3, so she's already got 4, potentially 7 attacks. I don't know why anyone would not take her in your army, because you can run her as your general, and then your caster could be someone. Then you can take a level 4 in that one in your 1 per army list allocation for this army. So either a level 4 wizard or a demon prince, and she can still be your general. Again, if you take her, you're really leading heavily into wanting, I guess, like blocks and marauders or the berserkers. But yeah, like she has all the tools you need to kind of go with this army, and her special abilities kind of like fill the theme, especially if you're gonna be like Ryan and lean heavily into like the ambushing side of things. Like you're gonna want her in your lists. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on her?
Yeah, so I like her. I'm gonna go through some of my like weird rules interaction problems, but that's fine. As to Commander and Captain, what they did was they gave her a more army list specific version of Master of Mortals from the list of chaos mutations. So they just tweaked it to include the other mortal unit. But you're right, if she is your general, kind of a weird interaction. So I guess you could take her and a sorcerer lord that is Master of Mortals and then like have this overlapping +2 leadership situation going on for some of your units. That's kind of cool. So to get my weird objection out of the way is like I really want to include her because I want her ability to modify the ambushers, being able to bring dudes in on turn 2 on a 3-up, or being able to delay units because you can modify that dice roll is huge. But the issue I run into is like, where do I put her? She's heavy infantry, so she can't go with any of my skirmishing marauder units. If I put her in a ranked marauder unit, she's just standing off on the corner of it, looking weird. And so you almost are like strong armed into bringing a unit of chaos warriors with her, but then they can't ambush. So then she's just marching across the table with some chaos warriors taking, cannon fire to the face. So it's kind of, she just has like this, I love what she brings to the army, and she's not insanely expensive for what she does, but I'm just wrestling with how to employ her because of all of those interactions where like I don't want to bring Chaos Warriors. Like they don't add anything to the lists I have planned out. But if I
Yeah.
don't bring them, then she is just a 3-wound model running around by herself adjacent to some of my other units. So that's what I'm still wrestling with on that front. And if she is on her own, then it diminishes the value of her chainmaker ability as well, because the odds of her just capturing banners on her own are not fantastic.
Yeah. I
Um,
didn't even realize that she's on a 30 by 30 and all the Marauders are
Yeah.
still on 25s. That's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, that actually makes her like really shitty.
yeah, like you basically are forced to take a brick of Chaos Warriors, which, as we all know, are not great to walk around with her.
Yeah,
And
no.
also, her
It's
flail
rough.
seems to only do stuff in the first round of combat. Strength
Yeah.
modifier.
Yeah, I
So
think
she
it's only the
basically
strength
just
bonus. Yeah.
yeah. So she basically just has an extra D3 in Sorcelled hand weapon after the first round of combat, which is still cool.
But
But yes, those are my very mixed thoughts on Frindal the Chainmaker, who I will 100% be trying to use. So
yeah. So I guess this is hot takes. So you're getting all three opinions here. You're getting Andrew, who's was pretty hot on her, but has changed a little bit. Ryan, who's sort of mitigated. I'm not a big fan of Friedel. Like, again, I think it's an amazing thematic choice. And if you're playing like at home with your buddies in a local RTT, like, let's go do it. But maybe at the more competitive levels, she doesn't really make the cut for me. So basically, she's a named exalted champion. But being on a 30 by 30, as Ryan has mentioned there, when all the Marauder units she's themed to support and run with around 25s is poor design as far as I'm concerned. And it pushes you into list building directions that you probably don't want to take with this army. And then I think she's kind of overcosted for what she's bringing to the table. So she's 110 points over an exalted champion, and I'm not sure that's worth it. So like you're getting +1 leadership to Marauders within command range, but considering she can't join them, that command range bubble suddenly kind of shrinks a lot because you're losing the unit she would be in at the start of it. So okay, but not great. If you're lucky, the banner thing is going to come up in a game because as I mentioned earlier, most armies these days are running 2 to 3 banners, so it's not a given that her unit of foot slogging chaos warriors is going to be the one to take out a banner. I do like the improved role for ambushers, though. If you're going to lean into ambushers, you probably want that if you're playing to that theme. But at 235 points, like it's still a lot, and like if you are taking her, you better be investing into ambushers a lot at that point. I think her weapon is not overly impressive either. It's basically a worse flail that does D3 extra attacks. By that I mean it doesn't have AP2. So sure, it'll do a lot of work on her kick-ass combat profile because she's an exalted champion of chaos. But for 55 less points, you can slap an ogre blade on an exalted champion and you're going to get way more output. So the bottom line for me is, you take her because she has a sick narrative that complements the army well, or you've invested a ton of points into ambushers and you can't have it fail. Like, it's one of those two situations. Otherwise, I don't really see her make the cut for me. Any counterpoints to that, or
fully lean into theme, and at this point in my
yeah,
life, I'm just collecting wooden spoons.
fair,
So
fair enough. So rolling into final thoughts there for the army. So, final thoughts. I really like this army, army of infamy. Um, I'm going to be collecting it most likely with the purchases I've made. So I'm right there. I think it has an exceptionally strong narrative in terms of what we've seen in the different army lists. It's got a bunch of really cool thematic rules that you can build off of. I think the new units are all really great to run. The three main units, and then the two characters a bit more iffy on, but definitely like Huskarls, Berserkers, and Skinwolves are just fantastic. I think from a competitive standpoint, it's not as strong as the Grand Army, but it's still definitely got a lot of play. I think there's a number of lists here that you can build out of Wolves of the Sea that may not be the very tip top of the competitive meta, but you'll do well in any tournament. So probably the strongest list you can crack out of this is a Chaos Lord on a dragon, and then Gulrock, who we'll cover off later there, to be your level 4 caster, so you can sort of walk around that restriction. But you're taking 1,000 points of Chaos Dragons in a Marauder list. Do you want to do that? I'm a big believer in the Chaos Lord plus like an MSU Glasshammer style list with Dragon Ogres, Chaos, Gigantic Chaos Spawns, Huskarls, Skinwolves, like Berserkers and Core type situation with a ton of high strength attacks. I think that list has also got a ton of play, and you're going to have a lot of fun with, and you're going to catch a lot of people sort of unawares. Again, really fun, strong narrative, and it has competitive play. What about you guys?
I totally agree. Like, it's definitely going to have problems when someone throws like a dragon at it, unless you want to like drag it down with the mound of corpses that your army is made of. Um, Although, as you said, you could definitely just kind of make this strange like wall of meat with a dragon and two giant chaos spawn and just a bunch of like frothing madmen running around at their feet. Um, so it's cool. Like, it's got lots of options, and you know I still think there's play in massed ambush that people aren't expecting. But the thing is, at the end of the day, like, if you can't fight a toughness 6 monster, you can't fight a toughness 6 monster. No amount of ambushing is going to change that. So
Yeah, I guess I'm like ready to be proven wrong on this. I just feel like if you're bringing a big chunk of your army in ambush, I deploy on the rear end of my deployment zone, so you can't get in behind me, and then it sort of negates a lot of the power of that. But we'll test it on the battlefield, and we'll see.
absolutely, Andrew.
Sorry, based on like what you said about like how you're gonna deploy on your back edge if there's a lot of ambush, I think that works well for you, Kevin, because you play a lot of like Chaos Dwarves. But a lot
Sure.
of armies do want to push forward as well. Like if you're playing like an Orc army, they're not gonna want to be staying static on their back line. Like they're gonna be wanting to push forward. So they're gonna have to make that choice of either like, yeah, we're gonna try to negate your ambush zones and then not get any points, or hope that they push forward enough to get into whatever your like front line is, and then risk those ambushers coming on and like fucking with them. Like I think some armies are gonna like struggle with how are they gonna deal with like mass ambushing. Um, and it'll be interesting to see like how players manage that in the long run once you hit the table. But for the most part, like I do like the army, but like as you guys said, it is gonna struggle with those high toughness skew lists. So even like monster mash lists from like say the ogre kingdoms, like how are they gonna deal with that? Dragons, there's not a lot of answers here other than well, I brought my own dragon. Um, and sometimes that's the answer, but again, it might struggle against those things. But I think there's enough tools here that you can make some pretty competitive and cool lists. And other players are going to have to think about, at least in the tournament scene, how they're going to deal with um, this Marauder list.
Yeah, like we'll see. We'll see is sort of what I'll settle on. I think you're entirely correct that my commentary is colored by the army that I've been playing for sure. But yeah, I'm ready to be proven wrong on the ambushers. And if it works, like let's go. I will bring an army of ambushers and have fun with it. Yeah, I'll see. I'll see what sort of happens. So rolling into the second army of infamy, whose name I have been miss fucking quoting the entire week as I've been looking at this. The Heralds of Darkness. I've been calling them Riders of the Apocalypse and just a bunch of amazing trash metal fucking band names. But Heralds of Darkness. What are your overall thoughts, Ryan, on the army? Is it thematic, fun, and is it something you want to see on the table?
Absolutely. They are very interesting. I mean, my only real question is I don't understand what they do that the Grand Army doesn't do without as many restrictions.
Yeah.
But like I love the idea of a whole bunch of chaos. I'm a cavalry man at heart. I just love the idea of, vast armor and meat charging at stuff. I just think it imposes a lot of things without giving you any benefits for imposing those things.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. You touched on some of the main issues. I don't think the theme is nearly as strong as it was with the Wolves of the Sea, so that's a bit of a miss on my end. A lot of restrictions, which we'll cover when we discuss the army composition more in detail. But like you said, Ryan, I'm not too hot on it. I think it's something you could do in the Grand Army, and seeing what they pulled off, what the rules writers pulled off with Wolves of the Sea, and then to get Heralds of Darkness, and it be basically something that we could already do with a few like cool spins that we'll talk about later there, but is a little bit of a disappointment for me. And what about you, Andrew?
I think we lost him for a minute.
Oh, I think he's muted actually right now.
Oh, sorry. I have the same sentiments. So, you go from this really cool thematic list, and then you go into this one that's, in theory should be really cool and thematic as well, especially for like a warrior's army, and just the restrictions they impose kind of takes the wind out of the sails of what you would want to do with this list to begin with. Um, and it's kind of disappointing to see because like they're both in the same book, so like it's a really weird contrast going from this to like the new list or this list. And again, as Ryan said, like I think with just the base Wars of Chaos list, like you can do a better version of this to begin with.
Yeah.
Although I won't poo poo their main special rule for this list, which I think is pretty powerful. And in terms of theme, it feels like they're setting up for future Arcane journals. Spoiler alert, like for the Heralds of Darkness list, you can't really take marks. Like you can, but it's very limited. And their whole narrative for Words of Chaos, like for the old world, is this isn't Chaos Ascendant. There aren't full, I guess, like fully marked armies yet, or like they're not very common. So this really restricts how many marks you're going to be able to take in the list, and I think that it fits that narrative, because even if you choose to not go with marks with this list, like I think there is some play here. It's just you're gonna really be missing some of the marks you're gonna want to take.
Yeah.
So I don't know how limiting this list actually will be. I'm kind of interested to see someone better than myself play with this list and pull something out of it, because I think there is play here.
Yeah, there is, and like we'll come back to it. I think I just want to touch on like the thematic aspect. So I think you've sort of hit a good thread in terms of they're building up to something else. But if they were doing that, and if that was the intent, then like you could have given us more to sell that narrative. Just the first thing that comes to mind is like, give me a mounted character that's like the Herald of Chaos that sort of brings the word of the coming, storm or whatever to ride along with these armies. Or like there's a million narrative just like twists and turns you could have taken to sort of sell that. And I think they kind of fell short. But you're probably onto something with regards to how they're going to fold this into a broader storytelling process for the old world. Army comp.
Want to know
Nope,
what the
sorry.
sorry? You want to know what the funniest part about your point was?
What?
If you read the lore blurbs for Frindal the Chainmaker, he is the character that you wish this army had, narratively speaking, not mechanically.
There you
But
go.
I just thought that was funny.
There you go. So yeah, okay, cool. So let's move on from that and talk about army composition for these guys.
Here we go. So you can take up to 50% of your army as characters. You can have 0 to 1 Chaos Lord or Demon Prince. You can have 0 to 1 per 1,000 points of Exalted Champions or Sorcerer Lords. And you can have as many aspiring champions and exalted sorcerers as your heart desires. You must take at least 33% of your army as core, and that must include 1 or more units of Chaos Knights, and then may include Marauder Horsemen, Chaos Warhounds, and you can take 0 to 1 Chaos Chariot as a core choice. You can take 50% of your army as special. You can have 0 to 1 unit of chosen Chaos Knights, 0 to 1 chosen Chaos Chariots per 1,000 points. You could take Chaos Spawn, Chaos Chariots, and Chimeras, and you can take Dragon Ogres. Up to 25% of your army can be rare, and you can take Gorebeast Chariots, 0 to 1 Dragon Ogre Shaggoth per unit of Dragon Ogres, 0 to 1 Giant Spawn of Chaos per 1,000 points, 0 to 1 Chaos Giant per 1,000 points, and 0 to 1 Warp Fire Dragon. In the Mercenaries section, up to 25% of your army can be spent on Centaur Chieftains and Centaur Herds. That's really it. Again, it's very cavalry heavy, but aside from adding in the new unit options, all of which except for chosen chariots, are normally available in the Grand Army, and you could already take all knights as core. It doesn't. Yeah, it's a lot of horses and chariots and big monsters, all organized in the exact same way you could already take them.
Okay. So just Andrew, you want to give us your take on army composition quickly?
Yeah, I like that they're playing with the percentages a bit than what we see in the regular grand armies, but again, there's nothing here that's like special for this army. I don't know. It kind of just seems like the same as the regular army. If you're wanting to skew all cavalry anyway, like there's nothing here that you wouldn't take already in like a cavalry skewed list.
Yeah, and sort of on my end, like this is a disappointment for me, straight up. Like I think it's a straight nerf from the Grand Army. 33% core is a stinker. Like there's no way around it. And you're losing out some of the strong units in the book too. Like I don't know, Forsaken, for example, they don't fit the theme, sure, but like you're not getting a lot in return for that. And then last thing I'll say is a funny little side note here is that Dragon Ogres, Shartax, the Shagos, and I guess Centigore Chieftains will be taking items from the Warriors of Chaos list rather than their own army book, which is kind of a new thing. It's something I haven't delved into in like a lot of massive detail, but the hottest of takes for me would be that Beastmen have better mutations than Warriors of Chaos, but Warriors of Chaos have better items. So kind of a wash and cool, I guess, but it's interesting to see them bring that up for the first time. All right, so moving into the unique rules for the Heralds of Darkness army. So as per usual, we're going to be having 3 rules here, obviously. So the first one is Mounted Host. Basically, all characters in a Heralds of Darkness army must be mounted or have the Fly X special rule. The second one is Steeds of Darkness. So when a unit in this army whose troop type is cavalry or chariot makes a charge, flee, or pursuit roll, basically you can re-roll any natural dice roll of a 1, and then so before you discard any dice that are required to be discarded. So finest war horses from Bretonia, basically. And then the third rule is the Shadow Grows. And this one is for each character your army includes that has a mark of chaos other than the mark of chaos undivided. It must also include a non-character unit with the same mark of chaos and vice versa. For example, if you have 2 guys that are marked of corn, you need to have 2 characters, you need to have 2 units that are marked of corn. So these rules are straight up kind of disappointing for me. You're not getting the flavor that you are getting with the other Army of Infamy. And 2 of these 3 rules are actually restrictions. And then you get all these restrictions, and the worst part is that you could sort of make this army before. Mounted Host, I mean, okay, all your characters need to have a mount. Great, it's thematic. I guess you could also have Magic Carpet. You'd still meet the rules, the requirements of the rule here, because you'd have the Fly 8 special rule. Steeds of Darkness. Okay, so this is the reason, or one of the 3 reasons why you're taking this list. It's a very powerful ability. It will come up every game you play. Ask a Bretonian player, or I can ask Ryan because he's here with us. Like, Bretonians basically have the same rule. Like, just ask them how good this is. It comes up all the time, and it's just a strong rule. It makes your charges that much more reliable. Increases your charge distance. It prevents you from rolling those 2 1s and screwing yourself over. So that's great. And then the Shadow Grows as a rule. I feel like it's an unnecessary and probably annoying restriction to deal with. It's going to limit the amount of marks you can take in your army in general. You're probably never going to have more than like 2 to 3 characters in a chaos list regardless, which means that because of this, only 2 or 3 of your units can receive chaos marks. So, and then there's some other like further annoying restrictions that sort of roll out from that. So, for instance, if you have a Chaos Lord on a dragon, you're probably going to want to give him the Mark of Nurgle, but you're probably not taking the Mark of Nurgle on your line units. You'd want something else. So you're always going to have that sort of push and like pull and push inside your army in terms of how you use up your marks. And again, I don't feel like that restriction was really warranted. So yeah, I'm not too hot on these special rules, despite Steeds of Darkness being very powerful. Over to you.
Yeah, so Steeds of Darkness, well, I agree, it's pretty great. Like, as a Bretonian guy, it comes up probably once a turn. Like, it matters. Mounted Host, whatever, it's thematic. Your giant cavalry army should be led by cavalry or a winged demon prince or a sorcerer on a magic carpet, sure. The Shadow Grows, the only thing like my theme loving brain can do with this is just lean into it and just construct some kind of four horsemen of chaos army where you bring four characters with four marks and then they each have their own little retinue. Like no competitive advantage whatsoever, but it would be really cool from like a modeling, design, painting project ability. Like you got your corn guy and his chosen, and you've got your Nurgle charioteer and et cetera, et cetera. But I didn't need a rule to do that. Like I didn't need a
Exactly.
rule to make me do that. I could have just done it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, like I kind of agree, especially like as someone who likes the mono list. Like I have plans to make a mono Nurgle army. Um, it's just really restrictive, and like again, you can try to play around it, by taking like maybe a bunch of bare bones aspiring champions with, um, a mark of your choice, XYZ. But even then, like, well, let me just check. Like that's just 80 points of model and mark without any upgrades or mounts or like anything. Like you're forced into using Mark of Chaos Undivided, which isn't the worst, but like there's so many better things that you'd want to take, like either Corn for the frenzy or Nurgle for the extra defense. Like it just really limits what you can do with the list. Um, and again, like I feel like it's a little bit unnecessary because other than the one rule with the rerolls of your charges, like everything here can be done but better in the base Warriors list. Again, I kind of understand, like, to give them some benefit. Like, I kind of get where they're coming with this because they did say, like, hey, like, for the most part, like, Warriors are supposed to be chaos undivided, like, thematic wise. And maybe that means in the future we're going to see, like, an Arcane Journal of, in my case, Nurgle or Korn or whatever, which will be cool. But right now it just feels like, compared to every Arcane, or not Arcane Journal, but like Army of Infamy, this one just seems like really out of left field compared to the rest of them in terms of like what it does. Everything else sort of has like something that it adds to the army, and sure there's limiting factors on what units you can take, but right now it's just like all negatives with one tiny bonus, and it's just like really, really weird and kind of unfortunate. Again, I still think there's play here though.
Yeah, it feels a little bit half baked. Like, and I guess, to get back to your point of you can take some cheap characters to unlock marks and stuff, but like I feel like that's just throwing bad money after good or good money after bad, whatever the expression is there. Like none of the other army lists need to do that, so you're just stacking on a bunch of characters that you didn't want to take originally. So I don't know. Like you said, we'll get to it, but I think there's competitive play for sure. But it's kind of falls flat for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry.
I'm just agreeing with you. Kind of sucks.
Yeah. Chosen Chariots.
Yes. I have that. All right. Chosen Chariot. It's 140 points. It's a heavy chariot. Sweet. It has two chosen charioteers, which are 2 attacks apiece, initiative 4, strength 4, weapon skill 5, which is nice. And then 2 chaos steeds, which are just mounts. But they are strength 4, as opposed to most horses that are strength 3, so not too bad. Toughness 5 with 4 runes. It has close order, counter charge, which is pretty sweet on a chariot. Ensorcelled weapons, which Warriors Chaos, everything basically has that. First charge, impact hits, d6 plus 1, and Mark of Chaos Undivided. And then if you so choose, and if you pay your character allotment, you can buy a mark for that, 10 points per mark. And this can also be a mount for Chaos Lord, Exalted Champion, or Aspiring Champion. Which, I guess, if you take this as a mount for your character and as in your special slot, it is on top of your allotment. That's how that works, right?
Yeah, Ryan, you want to take this or?
I don't fully understand the question.
Yeah, so so the bottom of the chaos chariot rule page there has how how it works out in terms of points allotment.
Yeah, like for special, like in your special slot for Heralds of Darkness, it's 0 to 1 per 1,000. So in a 2,000 point list, you can take 2, right? But if this is also a mount for a character, wouldn't that mean, is that on top of your
Yeah, that's
0?
completely unrelated. So you can take 0 to 1 Chaos Chariot the unit or Chariot the unit per 1,000 points.
And then you can
But
take
you
as
could take a
many more
third
as you want.
you could take as many more as you want as character mounts because they're not the unit entry.
Yeah.
So that's a cool way to, I guess, get around that restriction. Because they're pretty great chariots, to be honest. Countercharge on a chariot is, I think, pretty rare. I mean, I play Dark Elves and we don't have that.
It's
And
quite rare. It's super rare.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm also
I can't
working
think of
on
another chariot.
Yeah, I'm working on a Beastman list, and I know those ones don't have it. So like that's pretty crazy. And then just in general, Chaos Chosen are not slouches in combat, like 2 attacks apiece at strength 4. With halberd, so strength 5. Not too bad. Weird that they don't have chaos armor though listed.
You'd get really on the characters though. Yeah.
On the characters, yes, for sure. But like the base chariot doesn't actually have chaos armor, so it doesn't have that cooked in ward save. But it is still a chariot that's toughness 5 with a 3-up armor. So like you kind of want this. It's a pretty good unit for 140 points. Like that. I don't know. What do you guys' thoughts on that?
Chaos Chaos Chariots are a very strong unit. So I think this is, I mentioned that the special rule that lets you reroll ones is like the first of 3 reasons why you may want to play this list. This is the second one for sure, this unit profile. So you're getting a slightly improved regular Chaos Chariot. Like I think it's +1 leadership and attack. But the real reason why you're taking this bad boy is for countercharge. Countercharge is a really strong insurance policy for a unit which you're buying essentially for impact hits. So anything short of a T6 monster usually is going to think twice about charging something that countercharges with D6 +1 strength 5 AP2 impact hits. And it may very well flatten any cav units that try to get the jump on it. I think as you sort of mentioned there also, Andrew, it's a cool counter meta pick to go for character mounts that are chosen chariots. They've got strong offensive output and they're immune to Killing Blow and Monster Slayer. And yeah, I can't undersell the value of countercharge. Like if other heavy chariots had that, it'd be amazing. Iron Demon with countercharge, anybody? Yeah.
Yeah, no, get the fuck out of here, Kevin.
The last thing I'll say is I don't understand the restriction of 0 to 1 per 1,000 points. Like this is the oops all cav army of infamy, and you're giving me this unit. Like let me take a bunch of them. Basically, I don't think these guys in a Warriors of Chaos army are specifically what needs to be reined in. They're just strong pieces, but there's other things you should limit before them. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, overall, like I think they're a really strong unit, and yeah, you're kind of limited to 2 of them plus character mounts in a standard sized game. but like they're gonna do cool things. I honestly wish you could take more chariots in the core, like regular chariots in the core sections. So you could make more like
Yeah.
chariot themed army,
Yeah.
but whatever.
I agree.
But no, the ability to countercharge with those impact hits, or if you want to be really cheeky, we'll get into it a little bit, but you put an aspiring champion with the banner that gives you a vanguard move,
Yeah.
and then you just have this weird like 200 point sacrificial countercharging chariot that like flies up the table before the game even starts.
Yeah.
Is lots of curiosity there. But yeah, I don't have anything else to say that you guys didn't already cover on this one.
All right. So, final thoughts on Heralds of Darkness. Does it have any play competitively? Is it fun? Like, are you going for it? Ryan?
I was a lot more excited about it when it was a Warcom article with no details. I really wanted to make an all cavalry chaos army at one point, and then I read this and I was like, well, I can just make a all cavalry chaos army
Yes.
from the regular rules. Now, with that said, I am also more of an undivided guy, so like that restriction actually doesn't bother me so much. I probably could make something out of this army. It just wasn't as inspiring when put next to Wolves of the Sea.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I'm not saying it's overtly bad. I'm just saying that something else caught my attention more. That's all. How about you,
Yeah,
Andrew?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I think there's play here, and again, I think someone more competitive than me is going to be able to like tweak out a really crazy, super fast, hard hitting list that I'm just not seeing right now. And again, um, like I do have plans to do a Warriors army, and in my head, like they were gonna be my like Cav specific list in terms of like I want all my armies to do something different. So like Warriors was gonna be my Cav army, and when I saw this before we got all the details, I'm like, well, there it is. Like it's tailor made for my future plans for my all Nurgle Grand Horde of Chaos, and here's my cavalry like contingent, and I can't make that Nurgle themed list now using this list because there's just too many restrictions with the characters. So I'm gonna have to use the base Warriors list for that, which is a little disappointing. And like I kind of feel like there's gonna be a lot of people, maybe not for the hobby side of things, but like in terms of just like, oh, I'd rather take like all corn or all Zinch, and they're not going to be able to do that now, which is a little bit unfortunate. But again, I think there's play here. It's just I'm not smart enough to squeak it out right now.
Yeah, I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. If you sat at it, like you could come up with something that's competitive here. Like there is absolutely competitive play with this list here. But I will say, like again, you've heard me throughout. I'm disappointed in this one. It does not compare to like the Wolves of the Sea in terms of theme and stuff you're getting. You could, as we've mentioned ad nauseum at this point, we could do this before, and now you're just piling on restrictions. I've got to take more core than anybody else, which I'm not interested in taking. You're limiting my narrative options with the whole mark thing, and yeah, so I'm not sure getting much thematically here beyond go take all cav the list, so ultimately though this still definitely has competitive play. So Warriors of Chaos has a lot of really solid unit entries across the army, and they'll carry this army of infamy pretty far regardless of like the restrictions. From a purely competitive standpoint, this list is definitely not as strong as like the Warriors of Chaos Grand Army, because it's the Warriors of Chaos Grand Army with restrictions. So, yeah. I think it still sort of ekes ahead of Warriors of the Sea in terms of like peak competitive ability just because of the unit entries you can take, and especially not having limitations on combat lords versus level 4 casters. As I've mentioned before, having both of those is a key component of a lot of chaos lists. So it still 100% has play. I just wish they would have made me try to play something else rather than a slight tweak on the basic list. So that covers the Heralds of Darkness army list. We're going to roll into the 3 new units that are added across the Warriors of Chaos list. So Ryan, kick us off with Galroch.
Yes, Galrock, the Great Drake. He is a dragon possessed by a demon of Tzeentch and has a great deal of self-loathing. His stats are mostly 6s: movement 6, weapon skill 6, strength, toughness, and wounds 6, initiative 4, attacks 6, leadership 9, and he costs 465 points. He is behemoth, as is befitting a dragon, and he's got wicked claws, as well as the dark fires of chaos, the fumes of contagion, and he's got draconic scales. He's in full plate armor. He is a level 4 wizard that knows dark magic, which is interesting. He has armored hide 1, so his full plate. He is in fact the dragon using a shield that the FAQ talked about. He has the breath of change, which we'll get into. He's close order. He has fly 10. He's a large target. He's got the mark of Tzeentch. He has regeneration 5+. The Spirit of Galrock. He's got D6 stomp attacks. He has swift stride, causes terror, and he is your typical chaos 2-headed dragon. I'm trying to remember for a second what the Mark of Tzeentch does. He has flaming magical attacks and can't benefit from the other ability because he can't join a unit.
You mean the actual good one? Yeah.
Yeah. So he's just a giant ball of magical fire. Oh no, he has magic resistance 1 from Mark of Tzeentch.
Yeah.
Because having rules that give you rules is definitely clear and brief.
Yeah.
So, moving along, the Breath of Change, once per game, he, instead of using one of his breath weapons, he may instead use the Breath of Change. He puts a flame template down on the board, covering an intended target, and its narrow end touching his base anywhere along its front arc. And the template has to lie entirely inside of Galrock's vision arc, so you can't go sideways off of the front of him. Any model whose base is underneath the template risks being hit. Any model, friend or foe, must immediately take a toughness test. If the test is failed, the model is overwhelmed by the warping powers of chaos and removed from play as a casualty.
Amazing.
If the test is passed, that has no effect. So, for your average toughness 4 model, a third of the time, you just die. That's cool. Yeah. Moving along, the Spirit of Galrock. It's how he wars with himself. So in the start of turn phase every turn, you have to take a leadership test on his leadership of 9. If the test is passed, Galrock is controlled as normal. If the test is failed, Galrock's spirit rebels. And while his spirit is rebelling, he becomes a level 1 wizard and may only cast 1 spell per turn. He is subject to random movement 2d6. And if he is engaged in combat, he must direct d3 of his attacks rounding down against himself as Galrock attempts to free himself from the demon by presumably one of his heads bites the other head. The only way I can picture this. Some sort of King Ghidorah situation. It's not great. Any wounds Galrock causes against himself are added to the enemy's combat result score.
That's the worst part.
And then aside from that, he's a two-headed dragon, so he can either use Darkfire Chaos or Fumes of Contagion as per typical Chaos Dragon things. They're breath weapons. They're flamey or poisony. It's not actually poison, but whatever. So, yeah, he does all of those things. Realistically, where I'm at with him is he is a cheaper way to bring a sorcerer lord on a dragon because he's a sorcerer lord that is a dragon.
Man, you just stole my thunder big time. Okay.
But like that's what he's there for. Like he's gonna show up. He's gonna like what's the dark magic signature spell? The AP -2 template attack at things.
Yes.
Maybe cast Phantasmagoria. I don't know. He's just gonna show up and be really annoying as the second dragon in your army that contains a minimum of 3 dragons.
Yeah.
So that's what Galrock is doing. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you stole my thunder. But so I wanted to love Galrock at first, but the more I read into this and the more I started sort of, mathing things out a little bit here, I'm not liking him. I'm not too hot on Galrock. So as you mentioned, very insightfully there, I see him as a budget level 4 sorcerer lord on a dragon. He comes in at 55 points cheaper than the stock level 4 caster on the Chaos Dragon with the Mark of Tzeentch. But he's strictly worse. He's strictly worse because you probably aren't taking dark magic as your lore if you've got access to battle magic and demonology. Like it's not a bad lore, but it's not as good as those two. Secondly, he doesn't have the lore of chaos rule, which means that he misses out on the great Tzeentch magic missile spell. Thirdly, you're not getting the +1 to cast ability from the Mark of Tzeentch because, as I think Andrew pointed out, or maybe Ryan pointed out, sorry, he can't join a unit to reach unit strength 10 to trigger that rule. Fourth, you don't have the ability to customize him through the great magic items that are available to this list and the OK mutations that Warriors of Chaos have access to. So you're losing out on that. And then you're losing out on offensive output because you're missing the writer profile in close combat. He does have a number of gimmicks to him, which are fun and cool. Like Breath of Change is a fun little rule that the gambler inside of me wants to love. The chance to straight up delete your opponent's unkillable linchpin unit with a single dice roll is fantastic, but it's just probably not going to happen. So, against a toughness 5, 6, or plus or higher target, you only have an 8.5 chance of actually pulling this off. 8.5% chance of pulling this off. So basically plan as if this rule didn't exist and then go ahead and get pumped when it works out 1 out of 12 games is basically how that's gonna play out. The Spirit of Galrock doesn't seem like it's going to be a massive issue because you're leadership 9, but it's a really annoying downside when you fail that roll. You got a 16% chance of it failing, which means it's going to happen at least once a game. So, once a game, your level 4 caster is suddenly a level 1 caster / dispeller that punches itself. So fantastic. It also makes him super vulnerable to leadership debuffs and leadership debuffing spells. And an interesting rules interaction here that I need to read more into that sort of popped in at the last minute is it says if he fails the test, he becomes subject to random move 2d6, but he's also still subject to the fly 10 special rule. Like it doesn't remove that. Obviously, it's meant to be replaced, but does it mean that he gets both? ? Despite all that, Galrock is still not a total write-off for me. It's basically impossible to fit both a Chaos Lord and a Sorcerer Lord on a dragon in the same 2,000 point list. So he gives you that option to just go double dragon in your character slots, Or, as again, Ryan stole my thunder, the triple dragon list, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute when we get to our next entry. And I think there's like an interesting case for him in Wolves of the Sea, as I mentioned earlier. It lets you get around the restrictions on having a combat lord and a level 4 in that Army of Infamy. So you could do both like a lord on dragon and Galrock in that list to sort of give you that level 4 caster. I think though that having a level 2 caster, which casts as a level 3 because of Siege, may actually just be better in that list for less points, but it's something that I'm going to have to work out, and at least it gives you the option. So those are my long-winded thoughts on Galrock. Not too hot on him.
I like him.
Okay.
He's a level 4. He has a worse stupidity essentially baked in. But he has like a 1 in 6 chance of killing your Dragon Lord, or whatever like crazy cooked out character. He has a 1 in 6 chance of just like killing your Steam Tank, Kevin. So I think that in and of itself is like something that's going to put a big fear on opponents, and it's going to dictate how they're going to play if Galrock is on the board, moving around. Now he is limited to dark magic, which arguably isn't the best. It's not the worst lore, but like personally for me, like I really like demonology, so it would have been cool if he had a choice of sort of the regular chaos lores. But he's still at least a level 4 in terms of anti-magic as well, for dispelling and things like that. And again, leadership 9 for his like I'm gonna attack myself test like isn't the worst. Having to deal with that myself as a Dark Elf player with stupidity on my cold one nights, which are a crazy unit to begin with. You don't fail a lot of leadership 9 tests. I mean, it happens, but like regularly, not so much. So like, I don't think he's super bad. And again, he's a dragon, and you don't have the dead weight of like the character on top as well. Like he's a little bit cheaper than a full-on lord level with a dragon. So I think he's not, I think he has some play. He's not like super OP, but like he has some good stuff going for him.
Yeah, I don't entirely disagree. I think you're being a little bit rough on chaos characters if you're calling them dead weight, because they have some amazing options. But what I will say though is the breath of change is a risks being hit thing. So if you were to fire at anything that has like a bigger than maybe, I don't know what, 40 by 40 mil base at the maximum, you would have to first roll a 4 up and then take the test after. So that's why I came to like 8.5% odds rather than the 17% that you get if you were just rolling a straight 6.
I think it's still going to affect how your opponent plays against it, though. Like,
Yeah.
Yes, odds aren't like 100% in your favor, and I think that's why they put that rule in to begin with. Like, you can argue against like how good the rules writers are for Old World, but like I think a rule like this isn't so bad because it's not a guaranteed, oh, I killed your whatever point character. Like there is a lot of things that have to go in your favor for this to happen, but the fact that it can happen, I think, is going to make people think twice when they're playing against Galrock.
Yeah, I think you're 110% correct with that. Like the biggest impact of this rule is not so much that you'll kill something. It's, as you've correctly pointed out, is that people will stay away, modify their movement, or not get close or whatever to this piece, and that's going to mess up their game plan. That is definitely for me the biggest win out of that ability. Okay, Ryan, sorry, Andrew, since you made such a strong point there at the end, want to roll over into Warpfire Dragon?
Yeah. Again, another it's cool. You can take this unit as well. So he's 375 points for a dragon character with all the built-in like fixins. So he's strength 6, toughness 6, 6 wounds, weapon skill 6, 5 attacks, initiative 3, which is, I guess I'm used to elf dragons that have higher initiative, but that's still not the worst. He's a behemoth, so you got all the baked in things with that. So built in on his stomps AP2. He's got Wicked Claws, Warp Fire Blast, and Draconic Scales, which are full plate armor, so 4 up. He can be a wizard, a level 1 or a 2, depending on what points you pay, and he does have an option to pick what lore he wants. So Battle Magic, Demonology, which I'm a huge stand for, and Dark Magic. He has a big plethora of special rules. So the main ones are Fly 10. He's a large target. He's a wizard, so he can pick Lore of Chaos. He has magical attacks, magic resistance 2, Wreck of Chaos Undivided, Regen 5+. He has Stomp, D6 Stomp. He has Swift Stride, which is sweet on a dragon. He causes terror. Obviously, he's a dragon. Then he has some special rules specific to him. So he has Explosive Demise. So what that does is when he loses the last wound, before the model is removed from play, every unit, friend or foe, within 6 of the dragon suffers D6 Strength 5 hits, which is, whatever. Hopefully this never comes up because you want your dragon to not die, because he is the 375 points that you'd be giving to your opponent. But not the worst. Then his other special one is Fire of Chaos. So he has a 5-up ward save baked in. Again, amazing on this guy already. So what you're looking at is a 4-up armor save, a 5-up ward save, and a 5-up regen. And he has I guess this doesn't work against magical attacks or flaming attacks. The picture you sent me, Kevin, it's kind of cut out, so I can't read what it says.
All right.
Again, really defensive on a dragon. Again, these are the type of abilities that you'd be giving to a character on a dragon for even more points. So built-in regen, built-in ward, and like half decent armor save. Pretty sweet. Finally, he has the Warpfire Aura. Oh, crazy. Okay. So models within 3 inches of him cannot use their ward save. That is both friend and foe models. But this makes him good for fighting other dragons. Which is, I guess, something that the meta needs is better, more reliable counters to dragons. So being able to just shut off ward saves within 3 inches of him is kind of ridiculous. And then for his close combat weapons, he has Wicked Claws, which I think every dragon has. So it's his base strength, AP2. And then he has a breath weapon that is not a breath weapon, is actually a stone thrower shot, because it has a bombardment rule. So range 6 inches to 24. Strength 4 with 8 within the circle. I guess it doesn't have a template. Am I reading that wrong? Weapon shoots like a stone thrower with the bombardment special rule. Oh, and a 3-inch blast template. Okay, yeah. So anything in the circles takes a strength hit. Strength 8 hit, sorry. With AP 3. Everything else, you roll to see if they're hit. On a 4-up, it's strength 4 with AP 1. It has flaming attacks and multiple wounds, D3 plus 1. So this thing is really fucking sweet. For 375 points, I think it's great. It's super defensive. Toughness 6, 6 wounds, and all 3 levels of saves. And then being able to shut off ward saves is such a powerful rule in this game, because a lot of the super scary characters that you're worried about, rely on that save. And this guy shuts it all off with movement or with a fly 10 and swift stride. On top of that, with flaming attack. So even if you're like, okay, I don't have a ward save, but I'll have a regen, which like we just saw at Capital City Bloodbath, the double dragon Tomb King list, which probably both those dragons relied on the regen saves. Well, this guy has flaming attacks too, so get the fuck out of here. It's kind of ridiculous. I kind of wish this guy can also be a mount for a character, because then you can just make like the most crazy Chaos Lord on flying warp dragon you can make, but I think that would be OP on a build like this already. Like I'm gonna buy one of these, like regardless. Like it's super good. I don't know. I don't see a lot of downsides with this. Like for all this in one package for 375 points, it seems kind of like a steal. What do you guys think?
I'm pretty hyped for him. Like you've really sold it. Like he negates warp saves when you get him in close to stuff. He spits flaming rocks at people. He can cast the summoning. Like he does everything. So I really don't have more to add.
I do have a little bit to add here. I'm not gonna crap on this guy too much. Like I picked one up because I love the model. I think he's at 375 points. I think he's a little bit pricey, but he is a strong piece, and he's packed with wacky rules. So yeah, like he's spitting out stone thrower shots, and he explodes on death. Like okay, cool stuff. While you've got the option to make him a magic user, I don't think I would. It's pricey, and adding a level 1 or a level 2 caster to an army that has a lot of really good magical tools feels a little bit superfluous, but yeah, maybe there's play there. I'm not sure I'd go for it. I think he's got a strong combat profile for a non-character mount monster too. Weapon skill 6, strength 6, 5 attacks, as you mentioned, at AP2 is no joke. And then, as you mentioned also, lastly there, Andrew, shutting down ward saves is an ability which could be really clutch. A lot of generals out there are running with armor saves and the Amulet of Protection. You can use the Warpfire Dragon's mobility to sort of, I think, set up some really good 1-2 punches with your combat Chaos Lord on Dragon, or whoever your beatstick character is. And it lets you write a 3 dragon chaos list, which I'm sure like everybody at home right now is cheering about. From a competitive standpoint, though, I think this guy probably gets outshone by the next unit we're going to roll into, the gigantic chaos spawn, just like on a pure points allocation perspective. Like at the end of the day, you don't have a lot of points in your rare slot, so this guy is probably going to get outcompeted. As far as I'm concerned. But overall, I think he's a fun addition to the roster. He's like a support-ish type dragon, which is cool. And again, it's like the character / monster thing that we saw with the Galrock, which is super super nice. And he has a great model, so I'm like all for it.
But before we jump into the next thing, though, do you not see this guy as the Warriors of Chaos / whatever the Army Infamies name is at this point, counter dragon, right? Because being able to shut off ward saves is huge, and a lot of armies do struggle unless you're like Bretonians with their copious amounts of Monster Slayer. They do struggle with anti-dragon, and this guy just seems like apt for that role. Being able to shut off ward saves. And then like half decent AP, like it's huge. Like I feel that's huge.
So I agree with you. I'd love to take him in Wolves of the Sea, except you can't. He's not in your rare slots. So like that list just cannot take him, unfortunately. But like, yeah, that would work super well. Unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately,
yeah. But you could take Galrock if that's like your your poison. But what you can take in Wolves of the Sea to help out with those tough targets is the gigantic chaos spawn, which again I'm a huge fan of. For 145 points is movement 3d6, weapon skill 3, which not great, strength 6, toughness 6, 6 wounds, initiative 3, d6 plus 1 attacks, leadership 10, a behemoth. He's got slashing talons, which are like wicked claws, but they're AP1 instead of AP2. A gnashing maw, which lets him gain wounds back on a single attack, and then skilly skin, so he counts as having heavy armor. You can take him marked for Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch. Obviously, he's got armor bane 2, close order, first charge, immune to psychology, large target, random attacks, random movement, stomp attacks D6, terror, timber, which is fun, and unbreakable. And then when you give him the marks, he gets like extra abilities out of it. So if you were to make him a gigantic spawn of Khorne, he's getting impact hits D3, and then killing blow. If you make him Nurgle, he's getting poisoned attacks and regen 5+. Slaanesh will give you countercharge and strikes first, special rules. And then finally, Tzeentch will give you flaming attacks, magical attacks, and magic resist 2 special rules. Interestingly, he's Chaos Incarnate also, so he could be taken in a Beastman army, which we'll talk about later, but opens up some options for them too.
That's huge.
It's huge. I love Gigantic Chaos Spawn. Windmill, Slam, the buy button on these guys, they're fantastic. I think they're what Mangler Squigs wish they would be when they grew up. Points for point. It's a very strong combat profile, which you can improve with the Mark of Khorne. So if you go Mark of Khorne on this guy, he's got D3 impact hits, D6 plus 1 attacks, D6 stomps at strength 6, AP -2 for 165 points. That is no joke. Also, the random mover rule is a very strong rule. It gives you a ton of flexibility on him, prevents your opponent from doing charge reactions, lets you charge without declaring charges essentially, and move essentially how you want. So super, super good. He's also pretty hard to shift. 6 wounds at toughness 6 with the option of giving him a 5+ regen with Nurgle. So he's 5+5+ is again a lot. It's going to take some work to get through this guy. He's unbreakable, which is extremely good to have on a hard to kill monster. It's solid. Going back to, again, my favorite Iron Demon, having that thing be unbreakable is like half the value of it. So same thing with this guy. I think competitively, if you're looking to just get the most out of your gigantic spawn, you're probably going to go Nurgle most often because the extra resiliency will really add up over a game. Although Khorne has a definite place too, like that list of random, that 2d6 plus 1 plus d3 attacks that you're getting is wicked with Khorne and is going to flatten most things in the game. I also wouldn't look sideways on anyone who took Slaanesh. Like, it's strikes first and countercharge on this big Gribbly is great. I don't really see a lot of play for Tzeentch though. So I guess, when going back to our discussion about the Warpfire Dragon, you could get 2 of these guys for less points than a Warpfire. So I'm a big proponent of the gigantic chaos spawn. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I agree. For 175 points, everything you get here is crazy good. I think Nurgle, as much as I'm a Nurgle stan, I also think it's the way to go, at least in the 2 Armies of Infamy list, because this guy fulfills your role as an anvil. So a lot of, like, both lists seem to be, we want to get in quick and fight. And if you need that anvil type unit, or to have something to rush into a unit that you are worried about dealing with, so you would just want to lock it down in a mire of shit, throwing this into it is going to be your play, because it will be toughness 6 with that regen, and poison tax is nice, but like having this with regen is just going to be ridiculous. And then with the gnashing maws, you do have a chance to even like bring back your own wounds. So like this is your anvil for not a lot of points, like 145 points, with plus 25. So was that 170?
Yeah.
170 for like a self-reviving unbreakable regen unit. Like that's gross. And like it's not just good for like the Wars of Chaos. That's also a huge unit for Beastman, which like as I'm currently dealing with a friend printing me a Beastman army, I'm looking at this guy now. I'm like, yo, I need this in there because like this is such a powerful piece to just be able to with random movement 3d6, like just be able to like dictate where he's gonna go and just deal with something that the rest of my army can't, and just like cool. Now you have this thing that is just gonna lock you in combat for the rest of the game. It's unbreakable. It's gonna heal itself. Like it's gross for like not a lot of points too. Like sub 200 points for this is like ridiculous. Yeah. So I think it's amazing. I think it's undercosted, to be honest. I think it should be like closer to 250 before marks. But I'll take it. It's cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Like I agree 100% with everything you just said. Yeah. Ryan?
It's everything the Chaos Giant wishes it was.
I think it's everything which all non sort of mount monsters wish they were.
Yeah, no, it's very cool and very fun. Random Mover has some super weird interactions with the rules that they gave it, though. Like, for example, only half of terror will ever apply
Because you don't declare a charge.
It doesn't declare charges, therefore there's no terror test to be taken by what it slams into.
Ooh, that is a really strong take I hadn't thought of, Ryan. Like that is for me not a game changer, but it's called a red flag on the gigantic spawn.
It
Doesn't matter,
also
though.
has a weird interaction with first charge, because first charge requires you to successfully declare a charge.
Fack incoming.
100%. Like, they're gonna rule that it works because it's logical that it ought to, but
Yeah.
I just immediately noticed there was some like, we gave it rules and then other rules, and they cancel each other out.
Yeah, good point.
But as you both said, like it just like runs down the table at something, body slams into it, and carries on with its life. And it's unbreakable, and you're just stuck there with this giant gribbling monster eating your peasants and carrying on. So it's very cool.
All right. Yeah, I guess that wraps it up for all the units. So the only thing left is the magic items. So we are going to kick off here, going with the first of all the weapons. Magic weapons. All right. So the first one is the Obsidian Dreadglaive, a 55-point item that can only be taken in Heralds of Darkness. It's a combat, obviously range weapon, strength +2, AP -1, armor bane 1, killing blow, magical attacks, requires 2 hands, strikes last. Yeah, I'm not buying this weapon. I don't think it's great. 55 points for a worse great weapon with killing blow is not something I'm interested in. I mean, you can get for 10 points more at that point the Ogre Blade, which just outperforms this monstrously. And you're only AP1 compared to the AP2 of a great weapon. So yeah, the way I look at magic weapons is everything in this game compares to a great weapon. Like 2 to 4 point upgrade that gives you strength +2, AP -2. And if this is all you're giving me for 55 points, like, yeah, I'm not buying it. What about you guys?
I like it.
Okay.
I like everything though, but Killing Blow is nice to have easily. 55 points isn't. I mean, it's not great. It's not great, but it's not the worst. You can get it up to AP2 if you roll those sixes, which again, I always say if you're fishing for sixes to begin with, like you're not doing it right. And after seeing, like, actually, how does that even come
But if
into
you get a
play?
6, you got a killing blow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess if you're fighting like stuff that Killing Blow doesn't work against, but you're right. Like now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, that's kind of stupid. Requires two hands, like whatever, like some stuff's like that. Strikes last is rough. I mean, I like Killing Blow is kind of like my go-to, like my say. So Killing Blow with Strength +2 and AP1, not the worst. I mean, I've seen worse magic weapons, especially at like I guess the top of the points slot, where it's like, what kind of ridiculous points level can we put on a magic weapon and then not make it great? This one isn't the worst I've seen, and again, like anytime you can get Killing Blow, I'm kind of gonna lean towards it regardless of like what else comes with it. So Killing Blow with Strength 2 at 55 points. I'm okay with this. Even with Strikes Last. I'm used to Strikes Last with great weapons. That, you're still, what, Initiative 4 on the charge? Like, it's not the worst. Not the greatest, but like not the worst. It's kind of like mid. There's better options. There's also worse options. I think I've floundered enough on this item. Like, what do you think?
For 10 fewer points, I'm just taking the headsman's axe.
Yes.
Like,
True.
you put it on a Chaos Lord, the strength +1 from the headsman's axe, he's strength 6.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, now you're Strength 7 with this. Like, whatever.
sweet. I can
And the
not
thing is,
Killing Blow the stupid train.
yeah. And then Killing Blow is like, what are you having a hard time killing that's not a monster, basically. But anyways, I think we've talked about this one enough. Like, we're mitigated. It's not a hard sell or a hard pass for us. So
Yeah.
fine. Okay. Dagger of the Dark Pantheon, Ryan.
Yes. So for 35 points, you can have a strength user, AP -2, magical attacks, knife. But for every wound you do with it to an enemy during the combat phase, the next time you attempt to cast a spell, you get a +1 modifier to your casting or dispel roll. So, like, thematically, it's cool. If you're locked in combat, you're not dispelling anything. It's there if you really want an AP2 knife to just stab things with. I can't think of a situation where I would ever take this, but it's a neat idea.
Yeah, I think like, I'm not sold on this either. I think there's like a corner case if you put it, for instance, on your like Demon Prince, that's like a level 4 caster also, and that can smash faces in. And then you get like, you cause 3 or 4 wounds on something, and then you're +3 or 4 the next time you cast or dispel. So when you leave combat, but still, I don't think it's worth it. It is a fun idea, and I'm happy to see the rules designers thinking outside of the box with stuff like this.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, it's not. This is a not good item, and I kind of wish it was like twice the points. So well, maybe not 70, but like let's say 50 or 60 points, and instead of you had to hit an enemy mod or like damage an enemy model, it would be kill a model in a unit they're in. So say they're in a big block of marauders, and then you get the +1 to cast. Like I can see that being cool.
Oh yeah,
with the
killing your
mana.
own dudes. Yeah.
Yeah, like you drop like a wizard in a block of marauders, and it's like cool. You kill a model, you get +1 to cast, and it's like in a more expensive item. Like that would be neat. But this is just kind of like, well, your wizard's in combat. You already don't want him there. And then what's he gonna benefit from getting like a +1 if he's already in combat? Like it's just weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, to be fair, it could be more than +1, but aside from that,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I do have one use case for this, and it's
Okay.
it's a demon prince wearing the demonic plate mail that we're going to talk about in a little bit, and this knife.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. That
Okay.
the
That's it.
corner case I was discussing, the Demon Prince. Yeah.
I guess that's me for Chieftain's Blade.
Yeah.
So it's a 30-point item, strength 1, AP 1, armor bane 1, magical attacks, and then it has a built-in +1 to hit. Really sweet. I kind of wish it was 25 points for that, because it's only able to be taken in Wolves of the Sea. I kind of wish it was 25 points to drop on a champion, and like there's your, I win every round of, or I win every first turn combat with this guy.
100%. Yeah, 100% agreed.
Like
Yeah.
I think them making it 30 points was a conscientious decision to be like, yo, we can't let champions have this because it's good, but like it's too good for that rule to begin with, because then just every Wolves of the Sea army is gonna go first.
But then you can take, what's it called, the Sword of Battle, that's like 10 points that gives you +1 to hit in close combat.
It has
So-
no AP.
Okay, but yeah, anyways, I think it's a huge miss that this thing is not 25 points. But but Ryan, yeah.
I have the exact same opinion. I looked at it and I'm like, this would be great on like my Huskarl champion. Oh, he can't take it.
Exactly.
So.
So all right. Pat, I've given my opinion already on this one, so I'll move on. Pass for me. It's great set of rules, but I can't use it for what I want to use it for. The Taskmaster's Scourge, 25 points. So that's a strength user weapon, AP -1, extra attacks 1, and magical attacks. So nothing to write home about for 25 points, except that it has a fun little rule, which is you can only use this on infantry models. Fine. During the command subphase of their turn, the wielder of the Scourge may attempt to urge those around them into battle with a lash of the whip by making a leadership test. If you pass the test, basically they get an additional D3 to their movement. Neat, fun little thing. I'm not sure that I'd ever really take it. Although, like, I love a D3 extra movement, but on infantry is meh. They're already going to get outrun by everything else in the army. I'd love this a lot more if you could take it on cavalry, for instance. Put it on your Huskarls or whatever. What do you guys think?
Potentially movement 8 berserkers. That's what I think.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yes. Okay. Yes. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, sure. Andrew?
That's kind of where I'm at too. Like it's almost like you would need to put this guy in a unit that you are trying to do the special ability with. Like you're not taking it for its whatever damage potential, because there's almost none on any characters you want to. So you're doing it just for like that plus D3. And again, it's kind of cheap enough to be like, okay, I'll throw it on champion just for fun to see where it goes. So yeah, I don't. It's not the worst. Again, it's not the worst, but it's not the greatest.
Yeah, I agree. I think there might be like an edge case for berserkers.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting one, Ryan, like that you brought up. But still,
Yeah, I think it's made for berserkers, like Ryan said.
Yeah.
Like it's there's not much else you'd want to use this on.
No,
Maybe
my
maybe I'm
my
wrong, but like
my only other idea, because it's locked to wolves of it's not locked to wolves of the sea. No, anyone can take it. But my only other idea would be to put it on the champion of the Chaos Warrior unit that I'm using as a bodyguard for Brindal, so
uh,
that she can, get her one
hit those
impact
spinners.
hit. But
Okay.
yeah, like whatever, it's cool. Like I really enjoy the fact that it exists, even if I won't use it necessarily.
Yeah, it's cool design space.
Yeah. Ready for armor?
I'm ready for a banger of an item.
Yes. So, demonic plate mail. For 50 points, your infantry or cavalry model can be in full plate armor and get +1 toughness and initiative. It's just awesome. There's no situation where I won't want to take this. I'm pretty sure even I had one idea that just saw a Marauder tribe chieftain in this with a great weapon, just running around with some stuff. Like, it's just a great item.
Yeah, it makes their Chaos Lords toughness 6. Like it's an amazing item. I'm there for it. I don't think I have much negative to say about it. I mean, I guess this is a balancing thing because it would be like an auto include if it could be taken on anything other than like if you could put it on a chariot or on a behemoth character. But I wish I could take it on those. But yeah, it's an amazing item.
Yeah, agreed. Like I dig it. 50 points. I wish it was like 45, 40. But it makes you now think twice on if you want to go full behemoth character or like just go with a demonic mount and like hang with like a full chaos list.
Yeah.
It
Because
also makes
now you
Demon Princes cool.
Yeah, it does. It pumps up
oh
Demon
shit, yeah,
Princes.
because they're just infantry. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Okay, I'm that's auto take on Demon Princes. I think now because that's crazy.
Yeah, agreed.
I was just thinking like in the scope of like Chaos Lords and characters like that, but yeah, I never even thought Demon Princes like that's huge. Um, yeah,
Yeah, this really pumps up Demon Princess for sure. Again, a banger of an item. Really, I think we're all in agreement here.
yeah, 100%. So next up we're with Mighty Serpent Scale Mail, 40 points. Can only be taken by Wolves of the Sea. It's a heavy armor, and the character gains first strike. For 40 points for first strike, that seems like quite a bit. I don't know if it's worth it, especially because it's locked to Wolves of the Sea. It's like, there. How many characters do you really need first strike on? I don't think that many. Especially with Wolves of the Sea specific characters, like 40 you're either spending this on your like one quote unquote like lord level character, so like your Chaos Lord, your Sorcerer Lord, or your Demon Prince, or this is going on one of your like lesser level characters, so like the Marauder Chieftain and whatnot, and they only get 50 points to begin with. This kind of seems like a lot of points for a not great ability to begin with, because you're not going to have any other sort of support for your Oi Strikes first that you would want. So like if you had like a sweet weapon, maybe you'd want Oi Strikes first, but like if you're putting this on your character, like the best you're going to do is a great weapon or to counteract the Oi Strikes last, or like a flail. And like at that point it's like, is it even worth it to take this magic item? So I'm like, it's not. I don't see any play on this. Like maybe you guys will say I'm wrong. So what do you guys think? I don't know. Hot takes, right?
The only thing my brain springs to use this on would be something like a sorcerer lord, where you're just using the strike first to cast Hammer Hand at initiative 10. Like
Except the hammer hand blows. So
or like any other assailment you can get yourself access
okay.
to. But the point I'm getting at is like that's the only use case I can find for it.
Yeah, I think it's a bad item. I mean, you could do something cute, like you put a Chaos Lord on dragon with this, and like the dragon slaying sword, and go fight other dragons.
So
But like
there's a
aside,
there's a
sorry,
there's a big downside to that though, because then your save is a choice of heavy
sure,
armor and his chaos armor save, or full plate and no invul,
sure,
or no
but
no.
like, yeah, so cute idea, but like this is a garbage item. Like it's not
Yeah.
worth its points. Don't take it. Um, Okay. Going from garbage to another banger of an item, the Talisman of the Carrion Crow. The bearer of the Talisman of the Carrion Crow has the Regen 5 Plus and Poison Attack special rolls for 45 points. Regen 5 Plus is amazing, considering that most Chaos, Lord level characters have a 5 plus ward save baked in. So for 45 points, you've got, your, was it 3 plus, 5 plus, 5 plus Lord, and then you have 55 points left over to take a sick magic weapon, or just increase his toughness or whatever, like his unkillableness even more. I think this is a great item. A poison attacks is just like gravy on the gravy on the chicken there, and then it also gives you a second source of a second source of regen 5 plus in the army. There's another item I believe called the Crown of Command in the regular Warriors of Chaos army list that gives you just regen 5 plus for 40 points. So you could slap that on two bad boys, having 5 plus wards and 5 plus regens.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can slap like regen on a character um, is huge, and this isn't like a restrictive amount of points. Like 45 is great, and then to also give that character poison attacks. Unfortunately, I guess that wouldn't stack with any magic items you gave that character. But still, if you're just opting for like the sort of super defensive, like I'm gonna buy the best armor and then this, and then a great weapon or like whatever, a lance on like a dragon character, like this is pretty sick. And again, maybe my bias of like I prefer Nurgle over everything. Um, like I think that's really good because the crow is Chaos's or is Nurgle's like spirit animal in the chaos world. So again, I'm gonna probably just like this item regardless. But again, like being able to get like pocket regen for 45 like ain't too bad, right?
Yeah, solid. Ryan?
Yeah, it's 5 points more than the other item that gives you just regen, so it's great. Like, there's no downside here.
Perfect. Do you see any downsides in the next one?
So many. So we have the talisman of the soaring eagle, the totem of Zinch, for 35 points. The bearer of this talisman has magic resistant -2. In addition, they have a 5-up ward save against any wounds caused by an attack that has the magic attack special rule. So you get really good at surviving fireball,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's again like it's if you're leaning into Zinch or building a real magic resisty army, sure. But like there's for 5 fewer points you can just get a 5-up ward save.
Exactly. Exactly. Give me the Talisman of Protection for 30 and pass on this thing. That's my opinion. Andrew?
Yeah, it's kind of useless. I don't. I mean, the problem is like you're taking this on presumably a character, so they're already gonna have a baked in like chaos armor ward save to begin with. It's like, well, you're kind of paying a premium for the secondary effect of, um, the magic resistance. Just like, well, why bother? Like
Yeah.
the whole like ward save aspect of it is just like completely useless to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. I hadn't even thought of the baked in word save. I was just like, I looked at the text and thought this is terrible, but you're completely right. And let me
But-
tell you, if you want magic resist, the next item is for you. The next item is the Banner of the Dark Powers for 50 points. That one is a unit carrying the Banner of the Dark Powers, gains the Magic Resist 3 special rule. I like it. I'm not taking it every game, but Magic Resist 3 is good, is just straight up good. So decent item. 50 points a lot though, so yeah.
I mean, if you have like that anvil or like that big like I guess Death Star that you're trying to keep alive, you slap this thing on a BSB and you go with it, like it's a lot of points to spend, but I'm sure there's edge cases where like that's useful. Um so it's not like an auto take, but I think there's some play here.
Yeah, agreed. Magic Resist 3 is good. It's just not an auto take item. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting basically a toned down version of the Banner of Arcane Protection, but for 20 points less.
Yeah.
So compared to the High Elves one. But yeah, like maybe if you were taking like a giant brick of Chosen that you didn't want to get magic missiled off the table, would be cool.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, Banner of the Baying Hound. This one is it can only be taken in a Heralds of Darkness army, and this is the third reason I mentioned earlier why you want to take the Heralds of Darkness. 25-point item, and it gives you Vanguard special rule on the unit of your choice. Vanguard is super powerful, lets you set up some very strong charges in your probably second turn because you have nothing that's. You may be able to pull off turn one charges depending on which unit you take, but just a really, really good item. You're going to be taking that. I think it's an auto include if you're taking Heralds of Darkness, as far as I'm concerned. What about you guys?
I literally never leave home without the Bretonian version of this item.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The only downside is you won't be doing what I keep doing in like turn 1 Pegasus Knight charging people.
Yeah, exactly. You're probably not able to do it, but still the added mobility is fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, so I'm in between because like this is really powerful, but it's like what else do you have in your army that's gonna be able to support this like crazy vanguarding unit? Um the Bretonian version of this I think is a little bit better because it's on an already super powerful unit, the Pegasus Knights. Um at least if you build your list that way. So it's like what would you do in a Chaos Warriors army that is equivalent? It's like your only choices are, I guess, Chosen Knights or the Chosen Chariot, and it's just like I don't think they hang with Peg Knights the same way. So I think it's a good like item to go with, but it's like you're sending a unit out alone unsupported that isn't as super powerful as like say Peg Knights. So I'm kind of like I guess mixed on this one. Like I like it, but like at the same time, it's like, who's helping it out?
So you're right in that it's not as good as it is with Peg Knights. Like there's no Peg Knight equivalent in the game, and much less this army. But like there's options to support the unit, like your chaos spot, your gigantic chaos spawn that are going 3d6 when they follow up. Your
Yeah.
dragons, which are
The
fly
Warp
10.
Dragon, yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
there's a
you're
few
right.
options.
There are. It's just like I just wish there was like a super good unit that can benefit as much as like say the Peg Knights could.
So
Like if there was
honestly,
like some. Go ahead.
I would say honestly, the trick to it is being good at measuring other people's charge distances
Yeah.
and making sure the unit you give this to has counter charge.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to protect you.
Yeah, fair
Yeah.
play.
Um,
I get that.
Or something that's
Or-
decently tough that is gonna get into like your big unit of chosen corn marked chaos knights. Off you go.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, Sea Raiders Crest. Who's up? Ryan.
Me. Yeah, so for 25 points, Wolves of the Sea can take this, and the unit carrying the Sea Raiders crest gains the Fear special rule. They already have Fear, they get upgraded to Terror. So the interesting thing with, like, it's cool, I like giving stuff Fear, but with Wolves of the Sea, the only units in the entire army that can take a magical banner are the BSB, your Chaos Warriors, and your Huskarls. And that's it.
Yeah.
So
Yikes. Rough.
you could give, I mean, giving Huskarls Fear when they also have counter charge is an interesting
Rules
thing you could
interaction. Yeah.
do. But I can give them so many other banners.
Yeah.
But like what I really wish I could do was give this to a brick of Marauders. But I can only do that by spending another 90 points on a BSB to like be there with them.
Yeah.
Not even 90, it'd be 115 points on
Yeah.
like a dude with light armor and a hand weapon.
Yeah.
So-
It sort of helps them with like terror bombing lists, though, right?
Well, maybe, but it's only on one unit, and like if you're spending 25 points to make it so that when you're like your Huskarls, you don't want them charging a dragon anyways, so it's not really, I think, that valuable.
I'm thinking more them charging you though.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you like, hopefully you maneuver so that the situation is not, I need to protect my my 100-point unit of 5 Huskarls from a dragon. And then if that comes up, like, you're gonna lose them regardless. They won't run away, they'll just die when they get charged.
Yeah, fair play, fair play.
it exists. It's a thing.
Sure. Exactly.
But like I actually can't think of a situation, like, is there a spell that gives a unit Fear? I can't think of a unit I could give it to that has Fear that we get uprated to Terror.
Yeah, I don't know. If there was, it would be fantastic, but without it, I'm not seeing it either.
Yeah.
Icon of Darkness, Andrew.
Yeah, so 20 points. Any enemy unit targeting a unit carrying this icon is -1 to hit in the shooting phase. Or yeah, during the shooting phase. It's cool, I guess. I don't know how much BS shooting that people are afraid of that they need this, but I'm sure there's edge cases. Off the top of my head, I can think of maybe like a BSB chariot, maybe in a chosen chariot with a BSB, to get that -1 to hit from shooting attacks, just so they can make sure they can move across the board, sort of unmolested. But really, that's kind of just me pulling as hard as I can to figure out an edge case. Like, I feel like it's cool and it's cheap enough for 20 points. Like, it's not the worst, but like, who really is scared of ballistic skill shooting at this point? Like, maybe Wood Elves, but like, at least in our meta in Ottawa, there's not a lot of that, and it seems like online there's not a lot of that to begin with. I think High Elves can do heavy shooting lists, but I don't think they're skewing towards that. And then Dark Elves, they can skew heavily towards skill shooting as well, but like there's better ways to spend 20 points. Like I don't think you're that worried about any of that shooting. Maybe the wood elves, but like even then, it's not that bad.
Yeah, maybe. I think I don't hate it. It's there. I think it's got a little bit more play than what you're getting at here. For instance, you're probably taking. Actually, you must take in Heralds of Darkness the uh, Chaos Knights, and then you're probably taking Chosen Chaos Knights. Like those things with one wound are like a bad save away from losing a lot of points coming in to charge something that has ballistic skill shooting. So having that as a 20-point insurance policy is not bad. Like I'm not trying to upsell this item to you. Like it is what it is, but I don't think it's terrible. It's probably got some play.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to downplay it. Like I think it's like I think it's perfectly pointed, to be honest. Like 20 points for a -1 to hit in shooting phase, like, yeah, that's pretty decent. But it's like, I think it's like one of those like meta specific things where it's like, okay,
Yep.
does like a lot of players in your scene use a lot of ballistical shooting? Like maybe you have a dwarf gunline list or like
Yep.
wood elves or whatever. Like, yeah, you should fucking take this because it's gonna help out that unit you want to get in. But like thinking from our scene, like there's not a lot. Like I don't know if I would take this. Um Although it is a -1 modifier, so off the top of my head, and maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, does this fuck with Tomb Kings with their auto like I always hit on a 5+?
No, it doesn't. They ignore all modifiers. It wouldn't impact.
Well, there you go. So like it depends on your meta again. Like cuz if it did, like that'd be great, but I don't know. Like I don't see heavy play with this. Again, 20 points is cheap enough that you can just be like, I'll take it just to begin with. Ryan, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so when I first read it, I was like, oh, -1 to be hit by shooting. Sounds great. Then I reread
It's
it and it
great.
was like, to be shot in the shooting phase only. If this was
Ah,
20 points and it was
yeah.
just -1 to be hit, like helps
Oh,
protect
that.
you on the way in against stand and shoot and whatever, way cooler.
Good take.
Oh
Helping
yeah, I
you.
never even thought of that.
Yeah. Whereas in this case, it's only during the shooting phase. Like, I'm still debating actually tossing it on, like, if I took like a larger unit of Huskarls just to help mitigate that, like, they have a slightly worse save than most knights. So if they just get hit less, it's better.
Mhm.
Yep, I can
So
see that.
I'm toying with that. But other than that, like again, it's like the banner of Shalom for the Bretonians. I don't start with it, but if I have 20 points, sure.
Take it. Yeah.
Sure. All right, so let's do the enchanted items now. So first one, Ryan, is going to be the Blood Skull Pendant.
Sweet. So for 45 points, one of your infantry models can take this item, and instead of attacking normally, they can choose to inflict a single Strength 8 hit on every enemy model in base contact with them, with an AP of -1, and these hits have Killing Blow. It's interesting, except for the fact that like there's a finite limit to how many models can
Yeah,
be in base contact with an infantry model.
exactly.
So, like, you put this on a dude on a 25 mil base, he's at best touching like 3 people, and he probably already has 3 attacks. So, cool.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
if you put it on a demon prince, he's touching more people but getting less attacks than he normally has. So,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, if you were to run like a suicide marauder chieftain, just like comes out of ambush, like runs up to a war machine and like stabs it to death, maybe? I don't know. It's a war machine, it's not affected by killing blow. That's silly. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a good use for this.
Yeah, this. I don't think it's a good item, man. Like it seems good when you read like strength 8, AP1, killing blow, but then you realize everything you said with regards to base sizes and number of attacks for like a demon prince, which is probably the best case scenario in terms of what you put this on. And like, yeah, it doesn't work. It's not great.
Actually, I'm just realizing though, it inflicts hits. So
Yeah,
the
you don't
only
need to
way
roll.
it's not is you're just skipping the to hit
Yeah.
step.
It's
Yeah,
auto hit, but still, like, eh.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
not good.
I mean, for 40 points, you can get the next item that Andrew's going to tell us about.
Yeah, like before we jumped, like it before we jump into that, like I feel like it fills that role of like there's a lot of items in this game that they've sort of written in. It's like that's cool and like themey, and it'd be kind of fun to play, like whatever. But they always like point those items a little bit too high to be like, I'll just take it for like the hell of it because if it happens, like that's hilarious. But like 45 points is like, that's too tight to like be like just doing some like weird like stupid gamble like this.
Yeah.
And it's like unfortunate. Like this should be like a 25 point item because it'd be like, okay, I'll take it. It's ridiculous. Like maybe it'll happen and like my opponent will be pissed. But for the most part, like it's never gonna come down.
Agreed.
So the next one is Rod of the Damned. It's 40 points. It can the bearer of the Rod of the Damned may cast the summoning spell from the Lord Demonology as a bound spell of a power level of 2. The summoning spell is really good in Lord Demonology. So it's cool to be able to take that as a bound spell. But I don't think it's 40 points worth. Like, you can get a Ruby Ring of Ruin for 25 points.
30.
And that's also 30 points. Sorry. And that's also a really good spell. And I think those two spells are kind of like on par in terms of like power level. So I think this is just a little bit too heavy in points to take regularly. Although it's not bad to have a pocket the summoning spell. It does ignore armor saves.
Ryan, you want to go before me or?
Yeah, sure. Like, yeah, I agree. Like, I think it's a great item. I don't think AP -1 Fireball, which is what the summoning is
Yeah.
10 points more than Fireball.
Yeah, like
if it was like a
5 points more,
5-point
maybe.
difference
Yeah.
between it and the Ruby Ring. But not gonna lie, I'd probably still find a way to take both of those items in an arc.
Exactly. And that's where I'm going to go with this. I like the Ruby Ring of the Damned, the Rod of the Damned there. I think it's good. I like I love the summoning spell. It's the improved version of Fireball and everybody's running the Ruby Ring. So there must be some play there. It's a little bit less range though than Fireball, which fine. I think I've
18.
already range 18 instead of or maybe 15. I'll need to double check, but it's one of those.
I'm looking at it right now.
It's 18. Okay,
so good. Yeah, summoning is range 18, casting value 9, so a little higher.
Yeah.
2d6 strength 4 hits with AP of 1.
Yeah.
But
so
it doesn't ignore armor saves, like I said. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't ignore armor saves, right?
Doesn't. I'm thinking of another spell.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, yeah, but I think I've already written some lists with a pair of chieftains on horses. One of them has the Rod of the Damned. One of them has the Ruby Ring. They're running around the flanks and they're just casting magic missiles all game, being annoying. I think it has play. I like this item. Yeah. All right. So moving on to Demon Forged Barding. Demon Forged Barding may only be taken by a model whose troop type is cavalry in a Heralds of Darkness army of infamy on a turn in which the bearer charged their mount, and all mounts in any unit they have joined have a +1 modifier to their attacks characteristics. Cute. 35 points, making all your Chaos Steeds +1 attack. It's nice. I'm not sure it amounts to a ton of stuff. Like you're going to get an extra more than that, 4, 5, 6, 7 attacks maybe out of it that are probably not going to do a ton of damage. So yeah, I don't think it's worth it, but you guys may feel different.
No.
Okay, good. Andrew?
Yeah, I don't see a lot of play here. Like thematically, sure, if you want to do something weird, but like I don't.
Like
It's not that
if
great.
like blood crushers of corn were a thing, or a unit of demigryphs, but like just getting more chaos steed kicks you in the face is not inspiring.
Exactly.
Yeah, uh, I mean, what was it? The Huskarls? Let me go back and look at the notes. But like their strength 4 horses.
No, strength 3 horses on the Huskarls.
They're
Some had a
toughness
strength
4
4
horses.
horse.
Yeah,
I think regular chaos steeds are strength 4 actually,
they are.
like the ones the knights ride.
But still.
Uh,
So, as a dark elf player who runs a lot of Cold One Knights, strength 4 to attack mounts isn't the worst, and a lot of times with the way dices roll and my bad luck, it's usually the mounts who do the most work. Even though on the charge, my Cold One Knights have strength 6 AP 2. But it
but
35
in this
points.
case
It's a
though,
lot. It's a lot for like an edge case.
it's a lot, and you have to put it on a character.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Use up their
that's the other
magic
thing.
points
Yeah, you're right.
allocation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. If this was a banner for 35 points,
Whole different story.
100% every time. But like on a, you have to buy a specific character to make this go into the unit to then make this happen. It's a lot of moving parts for a not great benefit.
Yeah. Agreed. Scepter of Power, Ryan?
Yes. So, the Scepter of Power for 55 points. You can add a +1 modifier to your casting or dispel rolls. However, if you roll a natural double on either of those things, you take a strength 10 AP -3 hit after the effect of the roll has been resolved. So,
Yikes.
firstly, if you dispel, you have a chance to take multiple strength 10 AP -3 hits because you rolled doubles. Um, for 55 points, I don't want to play Magic Yahtzee. Even though it's actually only a 2.5% chance to blow yourself up. But for 55 points, there should be a 0% chance to blow myself up.
Wait a second. Like getting any double must be more than 2.5%. Like there's a lot of combos.
You have a 1 in 36 chance of rolling natural doubles on 2d6.
Yeah, but that's each and every single double. Like you get
That's
so you
fair,
get
yeah.
double twos, double ones, double
Yeah.
threes, double fours. Yeah. So it's 6 out of 36. But yeah, sure. Terrible. I'm not taking this. Screw it. Like it's going to come up. Your level 4 is casting 4 times a turn, dispelling potentially more than 4 times a turn. You don't want to be rolling that Russian roulette of doom every time. Like this is a worse hit than you get out of most of the miscasts. So no,
Yeah.
I'm not going for this. I think it's terrible. And last thing I will say is in chaos, you're giving your caster Marcus Sinch, you're putting him in a unit strength 10 unit. He's already got a natural +1 miscast. So whatever.
Yeah.
Andrew?
No. We won't be doing this. Like it, as you guys said, like it's just maybe in another army this would be like, oh, maybe I'll do it. But not in a chaos army where you can already skew to try to cast better, like it's just not worth the risk. I don't see why you would take this.
Yeah, it's not very good. All right. Andrew,
The next one, though,
sorry.
holy shit. The next one for sure, Grimoire of Ogwald. 50 points. You will always spend this 50 points. Rather than randomly generating spells, you just know every spell from your selected lore wizardry, including the signature spells. So any level wizard just knows everything from their selected lore. Essentially, that grants you 7 spells you know, but you can only cast as many spells as your wizardry level. So level 4 can cast 4 spells, a level 3 can cast 3, so on and so forth. But this is huge, and comparing it to the lore familiar, which is 30 points, which just lets you pick which spells you want. This just gives you full utility. So let's say you take a lore familiar because you want a select amount of spells. You still have to trade one of those out for your signature. This one just lets you know everything. That's a huge fucking boon for 50 points. So if you're doing a magic heavy list, or like magic is sort of the driving force of your army, I don't see why you would never not take this. Again, double negative. And this is available for all Chaos armies. So like,
Yeah,
50 points is really cheap for this level of being able to choose. And I don't think there's an army out there who wouldn't want access to this skill to begin with.
yeah. I think like I hard agree with you. I will say this is probably the only army though where you may not actually take it because it's in competition with another excellent arcane item, which is also 50 points, and they're mutually exclusive, and that's the Infernal
Yep.
Puppet. So the Infernal
You're
Puppet
not
is
wrong.
is obviously your enemy rolls an extra d6 when they cast a spell, and they discard the highest. Which makes dispelling a lot easier. So there is, I think both of those are like probably the top 2 amazing arcane items in the game. So, I mean, you've just got an abundance of riches here as Chaos. Maybe you run to level 4 as one with each of those. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic item. The only negative thing is that it's competing against the Infernal Puppet, basically. Ryan?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Like, sweet. I know every spell in battle magic, and have a great day.
Yeah, fireballs galore, and
Pillars of fire.
exactly pillars of
Like,
fire, and yeah.
yeah, you have whatever spell you need in the time that you need it.
Yeah, that's great.
I think a big part of the play of this too is like in a tournament setting. If you've picked like say a certain lore, you're going to be able to tailor your spell list, or well, I guess in this case you don't have to tailor anything, but you just make sure you have the spells you need for that game, regardless of what any outside factors, right? So I think that's where this is huge for them.
Yeah. Again, I don't know. Like Infernal Puppet is also applies in every single
It's
situation.
also huge,
yeah.
but like this is just a generic Chaos Warriors item. Maybe you have 2 level 4s, and
Maybe.
one has Infernal Puppet and one has this, and then it's just like, cool, I get everything.
Yeah, maybe. Like I think they're both great. I have a really hard time telling you which of the 2 is better. But this is an amazing item. Period.
For sure.
Okay, let's roll into our last one, the Tome of the Dark Gods. So models with the Mark of Chaos Undivided only. When generating their spells, the bearer of the Tome of the Dark Gods may discard any number of their randomly generated spells. For each spell they discard, they may select any spell from the lore of chaos as if they had the corresponding mark of chaos. I don't know how I feel about this one. So what it sounds decent on paper because, for instance, Fleshy Abundance and the Blue Fire of Tzeentch are like two really good lore spells. The problem is though you have to take Mark of Chaos undivided on your level 4 caster or whoever has this, which means that he's not becoming an effective level 5 because he's not Tzeentch marked. So I think for that reason alone, I would pass on this item. I'd rather be a level 5 caster that only gets Blue Fire of Tzeentch and have to leave Fleshy Abundance at home than get both but be level 4. Thoughts?
The spot I would use this is if I, for whatever reason, put a sorcerer on a dragon.
Sure.
If I had a sorcerer lord on a dragon and he just wants to run around with Blue Fire of Tzeentch, being toughness 7 and making people strike last and casting the summoning. Like that's his life.
Sure.
It's a thing you can do. But then again, like I also don't put a huge amount of stock in the dude on foot or horse with bodies because but the way most people are running it, you take one casualty and you're not getting your casting bonus anymore.
2 probably, right? Because it's in a unit of 5 horses and he's on a horse, so it's unit strength 12.
Yeah, but it's only the attached unit strength that matters for that.
Okay, fair enough. Good
So
point.
I kill one guy and your doesn't matter.
But at least they're skirmisher and anyways.
Yeah,
But, sure,
but I'm just saying is it's a great argument to say you're going to be a level 5 caster, but when I have to kill one 12-point model and you're not anymore, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of player skill into how long you can use that. And you can probably buy a few more 12-point Marauder Horsemen, but yeah, it is what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, I'd rather know all of the spells in a lore than know all of the chaos spells.
Yeah. Andrew? You're muted, man.
Sorry. Sorry. So I agree with what Ryan just said. But I will tinfoil hat preface this with, I think in the future, maybe not within a year's time, but whatever, we're gonna see arcane journals for more mono-themed lists. I feel like right now this ability for 35 points is a little too much to be able to just pick the 3 signature spells on a wizard. But maybe in the future we're gonna see straight up god specific lists for wizarding spells, or maybe more just god specific lists, god specific signatures, and then this will come into effect again. And then for 35 points, it's not going to be the worst. But right now, they're not those spells aren't the greatest to begin with. So it's just why does it matter? 35 points isn't the greatest. I don't know. I think there's better ways to spend 35 points in a Where's the Chaos or any of the Armies of Infamy lists. That this isn't going to be a big thing. Unless I think this personally, I think this is groundwork for the future. That's why this is pointed so high.
Yeah, maybe. It also prevents you from taking either the Grimoire or the Infernal Puppets. So I'm not. Yeah, it's a pass for me on this one.
And again,
oh, sorry.
Yeah, because I think I think in some of these arcane journals, like we're seeing groundwork for the future. So, like in the dwarf arcane journal, we saw the miners list referencing objectives on the field, in terms of like where the miners can place their ambush tokens or whatever they're called. And like, sure, you can think the only actual specific instance of that is the command tower equivalent mission, but why wouldn't they just say that specifically as opposed to um, saying objective markers in general? So I think some of these arcane journals are leading up into a greater like change in like rules or missions or like a mission pack coming out.
Maybe time will tell. If they thought that far, great. Okay. So final thoughts now on the Arcane Journal to wrap this this episode this episode up. Sorry. First thing, a few questions on the outtake here. The first one, Ryan, how does the book impact the overall power level of Warriors of Chaos, and how do you think it's going to impact their ability to perform in a competitive context?
I think it already rounds out what was already a fairly strong army if you played it right. And it just gives them more tools. Like they get some cooler magic items, they get some giant chaos spawn, they get a anti-dragon. Um, they get a dragon that hates itself. Like just lots of options.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think anything in this collection of items or extra units or whatever is gonna like tip the power scales of the entire game and see chaos suddenly like vault over other armies to like winning events or anything. It just it does what every other arcane journal did except for Tomb Kings with their mortuary cults. It just gives you a few more options, some other interesting ways to play it, and you can do with that. Like having more options is inherently better than having fewer options. That's it.
Andrew?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I think I think both lists have like really good play competitively, but as we saw with the orc list and even the dwarf list, um, it it's not like these were bumps in like power level for those specific armies. It was just like here's an adjacent way to play that army on an equal power level. That's gonna force. I think we're gonna see shifts in the meta, at least locally, because you guys are both like, oh, we're gonna be doing Wolves of the Sea, but like, I don't think like we should be looking at these arcane journals as like, oh, did this make this specific army list better? Because that's not, I think, what these arcane journals are doing anyways to begin with. It's just like, here's an alternate way to play a certain army list with buffs and debuffs and different army options. And those are going to play differently than the base arcane or the base book list to begin with. This one I think is a step back in regards of those armies of infamy being a different way to play certain armies, because at least with the heralds of darkness,
Yeah.
chaos, whatever it is, that one's basically like a shittier version of the base book, but every list other than that one in all the arcane journals has been a different way to play the base army list, but better.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is like a big step in one direction, one way or another. But I think it's a cool alternate way to play like the base list. If that makes sense. I kind of
Yeah.
rambled a bit there.
Yep, all good, man. All good. So on my end, I think overall this is going to provide a, let's call it a mild boost to the overall power level of Warriors of Chaos. I think it's already a faction that was, depending on how you're counting things, somewhere between like third and fifth in overall power rankings at a competitive level. So giving them a little bit of a boost in the arms may or may not have been needed depending on how you see things. I think you're going to see some of the new units crop up and some of the items that we've mentioned show up in top tier lists. For example, I see the gigantic chaos spawn making it into top lists. You know, when it joins the Chaos Dragon Lords, the juiced up level casters, the Forsaken, the Dragon Orgers, you're getting a really potent mix of units there. I think that has absolutely the potential to win tournaments and win any sort of game that you show up to. I think you're also going to see some people pull the 3 dragon skew list out. I don't think that list is nearly as good as the sort of more well-rounded mix of units I described before, but you've got one dragon who's essentially a support piece, one dragon who's a less good version of a sorcerer lord, and then one kick-ass combat dragon. So yeah, not as good as the regular, like just combined arms list, but the 3 dragon list will definitely be like total feels bads for anyone who isn't prepared to handle a ton of T6 stacking saves. Although at this point, if you're being serious about competitive play, you probably should have an answer to T6 monsters in your army list. So yeah, overall thought is a slight power boost for Warriors of Chaos, already a strong faction. How do you guys feel about the competitiveness of the 2 armies of infamy and your ability to play them in a tournament setting versus the Grand Army? Starting with Andrew.
Really depends on how you skew your lists. Like, I know locally the old like the full cavalry army is pretty popular. So I don't think that the new list is going to skew it away from that because that list relies heavily on marks. Although I do think, like at least with you and Ryan, um, there is a lot of like hype around the Wolves list. So I think we're gonna see a lot more play with that, and especially if they're like Ryan, who are leaning heavily into the ambush aspect of that list. I think it's gonna dictate how other players play their games. Like you said before, like it doesn't matter to you because you're gonna back deploy, and you don't give a shit about ambushing. But I think a lot of other lists in our meta and just in general are going to be thinking twice about like, okay, well now I have to worry about some of these crazy marauder lists and like marauder you know strength 5 flails coming out on my back edge. Is like, how are you going to deal with that? um so I think it is good for like the shakeup of the meta. And I guess like time will tell like how that actually overall affects things.
Sure, Ryan.
Yeah, and in the same vein, like I think both armies have something to offer. Like the Grand Army was doing fine. The Heralds of Darkness is just a cavalry-er version of that, so there's definitely some play there. And the Wolves of the Sea, I think that's the one, as Andrew was kind of alluding to, is that's the one that there's multiple different ways to run it, all of which make your opponent have to rethink what it means to play into a Chaos Army. It's kind of like when I showed up to a 5-round event with an army of Bretonians that didn't have any horses in it.
Yeah.
And every single one of my opponents had to like question their life choices because they they were just very curious as to, their fundamental assumptions about how to fight my army didn't line up.
Yeah. Fair.
So, yeah.
On my end, I think just from like a purely competitive perspective, I've mentioned this before. The Warriors of Chaos Grand Army is absolutely still the strongest of the three lists. It's got access to all of the strong stuff, except perhaps chosen chariots and maybe some of the Marauder units, depending on how you're feeling, with just less restrictions. My hottest of takes is that Heralds of Darkness is probably more competitive than Wolves of the Sea by like a small margin. I'm not a fan of that Army of Infamy, as you guys have heard throughout this whole episode, but it's riding on a really strong stable of units, puns intended. And the Chosen Chariots plus the Banner of Vanguard, whatever it's called, are just good things to have. Plus the re-rolling the ones to charge, of course. And then, regardless of all that, I think all three of them are absolutely potent enough to play with competitively. Like, you've got the rope to win local events and RTTs with, regardless of what you're taking, whether it's Wolves of the Sea, Grand Army, or the Heralds of Darkness. But I think if you want to, if you told them properly, sorry, but if you want to aim for like the tip top highest potential competitive list that you can to win like a massive tournament, not that there are that many of them in the old world yet, but you're probably going to want to go to the Grand Army for that. So yeah, final thoughts. The last thing I want to ask you guys before we sign off here: how does gigantic chaos spawn impact Beastmen in your opinion?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was just about to cut you off on that.
Yeah,
I think everyone's going to be overlooking how much of an impact that brings to the Beastman list because they can already run a super, just horrifying to face, competitive monster mash list. They have like the Gorgons, they have the Minotaurs that can be ridiculous. Their Minotaur characters are ridiculous. They have access to giants. Razor Gores are not to be slept on, and now they're getting an even better unit with the giant chaos spawn, like for such a cheap amount of points.
yeah,
That's huge for that list, and like I think like as good as the giant chaos spawn for the Warriors list is, it's it fits so much better in that Beastman list, and like it just elevated them to like a crazier
yeah.
level than what's to begin with, and it'll be interesting to see what GW does when their Arcane Journal comes out to like mitigate that a bit, because like in theory like the go-to list would be all chariots and like Centaurs, like the Cav list, and then the Monster Mash list, so like all Minotaurs, Dragon Ogres, and then like whatever big beasties they have. So it'll be interesting to see like how they try to tone that down a bit, because they've given a super powerful unit to an already like pretty great army list to begin with.
Yeah, you stole my thunder there, Andrew. I agree with everything you said, with the exception of how you rate Beastmen as an army. But that's maybe a subject for another episode. I think Gigantic Chaos Spawn are an incredible addition to your Beastmen army. Everything I've said about the unit in a Warrior of Chaos list stands like for Beastmen, and is probably even better in Beastmen because there's less like internal competition for points in a Beastman army than there is in a Warrior of Chaos army. Like, their proverbial bench is not as long as the Warriors of Chaos. Sorry?
I wouldn't go so far. So like for me, like I'm currently working on like a Beastman list.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like in the thick of this right now. Um but in that like I'm trying to make like a monster master list with my Beastmen. So maybe like that's skewing my excitement for the greater chaos spawn. But right now in their like sort of big monster slot, they have the Gorgon, which is ridiculous and I feel is kind of needed because it has greater, or like the main monster slayer plus killing blow. And then they have giants, and then the Cygor, which counts as like essentially it's like a stone thrower.
Yeah.
Which is also good, like in like that sort of like big monster list. And then now you're introducing like an unbreakable chaos spawn. So it's like, now do I want to take an anvil chaos spawn to replace like certain things? Does the Gorgon still have a place with his monsters killing blow, which is, there to deal with maybe dragons or like the bigger units? Like, there's already a lot of play in the Beastman monster side of things, that like you're introducing an even better version of like some of the things that are already there. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, again, I don't want to get into a massive Beastman like rabbit hole right now. I think the gigantic spawn is better than any of the other options you mentioned. Like, it's better than the Chaos Giant that they have. It's better than the Gorgon, and certainly better than the Cygor. So I think it just sort of replaces them in a lot of ways. But like, I don't want. Yeah, we could talk about that another time, easy. The only other things I'll say, like with regards to Beastman, is so in my opinion, Beastman feels like an army where you write a list that starts with a level 4 Valtide Hagtree Fetish Caster, and then you put a bunch of Dragon Ogres in it, which takes up like 800, 900 points of your list, and then you're like, now what, right? And then having in that context a pair of gigantic Chaos Spawn to sort of come in there and soak up 350, 400 points, which less than 400 actually, points with like a fantastic unit that, as I mentioned, is probably better than your other monster options, is just great news for Beastman players. The last thing there is gigantic spawn are just a lot more mobile than those other monsters which you have in the army. And they bring a lot of mobility to an army which, aside from ambush shenanigans, is a pretty slow army overall. So I think it's all win for them. I think the gigantic spawn probably gives Beastmen more of a competitive bump than it does Chaos Warriors of Chaos overall, because of where they were relatively in power level. Ryan, what do you think?
No, I agree. Like, it's a good unit. You give it to another army, it just helps them more. Like, it's I don't have a whole lot to add there.
All right, so I think we're going to wrap this up now. It's been a very lengthy episode, but that's fine. So thank you for sticking with us. I think we did have some pretty solid takes and some good directions that you all can sort of run with when looking at this army book, or sorry, this Arcane journal, when you have it in your hands in a few days/weeks. So thank you very much for signing in. I'm Kevin. This has been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to our next episode. We're still workshopping the topic on that one. We may talk about the deployment phase, but we'll see what comes up in the next few weeks. Anything you guys want to add?
I'm good.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Thanks for listening. Have a good one, and see you again soon.